that you, Lord, will help us to remember that and respect our friends and neighbors. Lord, I pray for our world leaders. I pray for our military and first responders. As always, I pray that you will comfort them, guide them, and deliver them home safely. I ask for all of these things in your heavenly name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner White, for that wonderful prayer. And Mr. Moretta, we'll now move to the changes to the agenda.
Good morning, Commissioners. Joe Moretta, Development Services Department. For the record, we do have two changes for the agenda. The first one is found on agenda page 13, item G is 06, rezoning PD-18-0305. The applicant has requested a continuance to the July 24th, 2018 BOCC land use meeting starting at 9 a.m. And item number 2, agenda page 14, item G-07, application rezoning PD-18-404. The applicant has requested a remand of the July 16th zoning hearing master meeting starting at 6 p.m. That concludes the changes for this agenda.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Kemp to approve the changes to the agenda. Seeing no further discussion, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
And now we're on the consent agenda. May I have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Kemp to approve our consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Commissioner Miller? Motion carried 7-0.
And anyone in the audience, if you have a B item on the agenda, those items have been approved. And now, to those who intend to present testimony, evidence, or otherwise be heard on any matter scheduled for consideration at today's meeting, please stand, raise your right hand so the clerk may swear you in.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. You can be seated.
Thank you. Normally, we would go right to the C items on the agenda. We are in an overflow situation outside. We have many people standing because we did not prepare for an overflow situation. So what I would like to do is have a motion to take up G1, first item, because at that point, we have already had the oral argument, and we will just move to board discussion and vote on that item. So,
Move to take G1.
Okay, so we have a motion to take up item G1, seconded by Commissioner, which one? Hagan. Commissioner White, you recognize?
Yes, since it's related to the motion on the floor, I just want to say that I'd like to request of staff that we always have an overflow plan
Yes.
for the land use meetings, because I think we do have the technology out there that would allow folks to participate from out in the lobby or whatnot. So, yep.
Okay, Commissioner Hagan, do you want to be heard? Okay, seeing no further discussion, please record your vote.
Come on.
Okay.
Motion carried 7-0.
And now, staff, turn item G1 over to you.
G1. Thank you, Commissioners. Item G1 is rezoning PD-17-0921. This item is located more or less on the east side of Patterson Road, approximately 168 feet northeast of a TECO substation. Commissioners, this is a proposal to rezone this property, essentially to blend it in with the major modification that was approved at the last hearing. This is for 3 stands that will operate as a trap and skeet operating facility that will operate, as I said before, with the adjacent site that was modified at our last hearing. This case was opened and closed, and oral argument has been filed.
Okay, thank you. Good explanation. Thank you. The oral argument has been heard. So we're going to move right to where we left off before the move to continue, and that's the move to board discussion. And then we will vote after that. Commissioner Hagan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you recall, we had a lengthy discussion on this item during our last meeting, so I'm going to keep my remarks very brief. If you recall that code enforcement complaints are what triggered this zoning. And similar to what I said during our last meeting, I can tell you that my time in office, there's probably been 3, 4, or 5 different occasions where we've had a rezoning case that was essentially a non-conforming use in which code enforcement complaints triggered the need for the rezoning. I can tell you that in every case that I can recall, the request was not for new entitlements, but simply to continue operating in the same manner as the business had in the past. In every case, this board has granted the request because we did not want to punish or hurt the existing business. Silver Dollar has operated for 41 years. The East shooting stands have existed for 24 years. They are not requesting any new entitlements. They simply want to recognize an existing established use and continue operating in the same manner as they have. But, and here's the big kicker, but with added conditions over the entire property that addresses neighborhood concerns. The ZHM states, has found the request compatible and stated despite issues of preemption, regulatory, and land use vesting arguments, based on use has been active for roughly 24 years, the applicant has come forward and proposed conditions of zoning that recognize concerns expressed by neighbors regarding noise through a detailed plan of monitoring and constrained hours of operation for the entire facility that do not presently exist. So by approving this, we're actually providing additional conditions that protect the neighbors. So with that, I'm going to again make a motion to approve ZHM recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hagan, seconded by Commissioner Higginbotham to approve item G1. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Kemp, you're recognized.
So we don't have any public comment on this at this time?
No, we've already had the oral argument.
Okay. I think that's too bad that we're not all having the opportunity to hear from the community again. As we heard before, this operation has grown quite large over the years. The neighbors, as they said before, the shooting was the equivalent of every 3.6 seconds of gunshots. There has been, over the years, numerous complaints of noise, and the Silver Dollar, as I had asked before, I wish that they would meet with the neighbors and start to, there were many steps that they could have taken to reduce the noise and to improve the conditions. Clearly, I think after hearing from the opponents before, the petitioner as well as the opponents convinced me that the scale of the Silver Dollar, it's grown massively and is clearly not incompatible, or is clearly not compatible with the size, scope, and magnitude and with its growth over the years. I think it's a problem, and I think that we should be looking at how to tamp it down so it can be conforming, so it can be respectful of the neighbors there and the issues that they have with sound and the really disruption of in quality of life around Silver Dollar.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Miller, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I'm the second oldest on this board, so I forget a lot of things from month to month. So now what I'm hearing is that we're continuing this from last month, but the public will not be afforded the opportunity to come forward and speak.
Well,
right?
the oral argument has been heard,
Okay.
and that was...
Let me ask a question then. All those that are here in favor of Silver Dollar, let me see you stand. I should have known about the green shirts. Okay, thank you. All those opposed to Silver Dollar, let me see you stand. And I think I remember those that were here speaking last time that was opposed and for it. Okay, you've answered my question.
Okay. Commissioner Higginbotham?
Thank you,
your
and I
recommendation.
think I'm the reason that this was continued to today, because I missed the meeting, but just for the record, I did request captioning. I had a DVD and have reviewed the record in its entirety.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Hagan, seconded by Commissioner Higginbotham to approve or reject item G1. Without further, to vote for item G1. Or reject. So please record your vote.
Motion failed, 3-4. Commissioners Christ, Kemp, Miller, and Merman voted no.
Okay.
We need a motion to deny now, I think.
We'll need a subsequent vote now that that motion failed.
Okay, so we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to deny.
Motion by Commissioner Kemp, seconded by Commissioner Miller to deny item G1. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 4-3. Commissioners Hagan, Higginbotham, and White voted no.
Okay. We will now start with our regular agenda, the C items. Thank you. And, yeah, oh yeah. I didn't. But I was thinking about changing mine. I'll think it through to the end. Because I have nothing to lose now. Except I still, I've been working on that constituent case for a year and a half. You would have done the same thing.
You were right, there's not going to be anybody left in the audience.
Right.
There may be some people that are keyed up trying to get through security. You want me to double check on that before we start the hearing?
Yes, and if I could just also ask, we're going to send staff back to make sure there aren't people waiting to get through security. So we're just going to take a short, very short, like couple-minute recess here. Allow everybody to clear out and then people to come in. By a couple months.
I don't see that. I see Jake. Oh, Ben's here. Yeah, he's here. David's here. Somebody else is here.
Thank you, and we'll resume our land use meeting today, and I'll turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Commissioners. This brings us to the C items on the agenda. These are the hearings for vacations of right-of-ways, easements, and plats. Ms. Carrie Allen, the Real Estate Department, will present items C1 and C2, and will be available for questions as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. Item C1 today is vacate ID V180010. This is a petition by Eric Poor and Susan Kitchenmaster to vacate a portion of a platted 15-foot wide drainage and utility easement on Lot 6, Block 2, within the plat of Sun City Center, Unit 44B. This is recorded in Plat Book 48, page 38 of the Public Records of Hillsborough County. The property address is 1809 Fort Duquesne Drive in Sun City Center. The subject property is located north of Rickenbacker Drive, east of I-75, and west of U.S. Highway 301. The petitioners have filed this petition for the purpose of building and expanding a patio from the rear of the petitioner's home. This petition was routed to appropriate departments and agencies for review comments, and there were no objections to this petition request. There is a public works policy in place enacted in 2016 entitled Vacating of Drainage Easements. This provides guidelines to be considered when a petition to vacate a drainage easement has been submitted. The Public Works Department has reviewed this petition pursuant to the policy guidelines and has determined that the county has no need for this portion of the easement. As a basis for this review, Public Works has provided the following additional comments. The easement area in question is redundant. This is because the back portion of petitioner's lot between the area requested to be vacated and the seawall is actually part of a separate plat and has been dedicated for public use as a drainage easement. That area is approximately 24 feet wide. If the vacating petition is approved, there will still be a sufficient drainage easement area of approximately 24 feet for maintenance of the stormwater pond. Additionally, the 100-year floodplain is completely outside of the easement area, and the proposed vacating poses no flood control concerns. Although no county departments or utility providers have objected to this petition request, we have received objections from two nearby owners. We have received an objection from John Lampkin, the property owner next to the petitioner's property. Mr. Lampkin has submitted an objection on the basis that any structures built in the easement area may be damaged in the event of a flood. Building in the easement area could adversely impact insurance rates and property values. Future construction may obstruct his view of the lake, and the vacating could increase property taxes of those in the area. We have also received an objection from Melanie P. Higgins, who lives in the subdivision southeast of the subject property. Ms. Higgins has submitted an objection on the basis that this vacating would set a precedent causing other owners to build into the vacated easement area and obstruct the neighbors' views. Also, the vacating will disrupt the drainage to the lake, and it will disrupt the environment. Additionally, we have also received a letter supporting the vacating from Joseph and Dorothy Mugavero, who live 2 homes north of the subject property. After reviewing these concerns, the county has determined that the proposed vacating will have no bearing on the ability to access and maintain the stormwater pond. Staff recommends approval of this petition request.
Okay, thank you very much for the explanation. We'll now move into open the public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of item C1? Please come forward. And have you, we might need to redo the swearing in since we had so many people outside. So, sir, could you just hold on a second? And we're going to, because you haven't been sworn in, have you? Or you have? Oh, okay. Then we'll wait till after he's done. Okay, go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Eric Poor, and I am the owner of the property on 1809 Fort Duquesne. I want to thank the county and the board for listening to my request. I'd also like to do an additional thank you to Kathleen Pizzone that's worked with me diligently to get this process moving along. I started this process in August 21st last year. And we're at the point now that hopefully we can move on and allow us to have a screen room in our back of our house. I also would like to thank the engineering department for personally coming out and looking at the situation and taking the time to do that. I was very impressed by that. I'd like to give a brief history of what's taken place. This is a Del Webb community, and it was built and it was plotted under Del Webb. Del Webb stopped building in the street to the south of us on Allegheny, and at that time he sold to a new developer. The property was originally plotted with that easement in the back, and because they were going to put the utilities back there, and there wasn't a lake back there. Well, subsequently, when the new developer came in, he put in the lake and moved the utilities to the front. So really, it's, you know, it's a duplication. It's not necessary anymore. I have pictures of, instead of a drawing, actual pictures. It doesn't show up as well as I'd like, but if you can see the flags, they are the dark red up there. It's up on the plateau. The easement is on the plateau of my property. And down below, if you can show the second picture, this is the actual slope of the land. And that's my wife up there, and she's 5'9" tall. It's about 5.5 feet difference in height. So, you know, it's from a drainage standpoint, it's, I mean, there's lots of drainage opportunity and a lot of other place for the water to go. We're up on the top of the property, and that's where we would like to put in our screen room. We have neighbors next to us that are objecting to, thinking that the water flow is going to affect the property, you know, that we're going to put up. It's a screen room. Screen room is not going to affect anything like that. It's just we want to go out back, and we go out back every day of our lives.
Okay, thank you. We do have a question from the commissioner, Commissioner Chris.
Yeah, I'm looking at the picture, and in the background, is that a home with a closed-in lanai on the back of it in the background?
Yeah, that's like 2 neighbors down from us, yes.
Is that much different than what you want to build?
Not much different, no, sir.
So there's already something kind of similar there.
Yeah, there is on that, and then on the other side there is as well.
So you're talking about how big a lanai?
Well, our lanai is, I think, 20 by 20.
What you want to build?
Yeah.
And that looks like it's 6'6". That looks like it's about 14 feet, no more than that. That looks like it's about 20 feet out from the house as well.
Yeah, and our house is even set back further than that house.
Than that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Away from the lake.
Yeah, I used to have one like that, one in a picture. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of item C1? We're still in the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to item C1, please come forward. And sir, have you been sworn in?
Yes, I have.
Okay, thank you.
Before I begin, I do have some pictures also. And I also have letters of support.
And sir, you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Yes. I'll wait till the letters are distributed.
They will distribute at the clerk. If you give them to the clerk, they'll distribute for you. Good morning.
Okay, are we ready?
Mm-hmm. We're ready.
Well, good morning, commissioners and staff. Thank you for hearing our concerns. And this is our neighborhood, Sun City Center. As you saw on the last slide, the petitioner's house is there, and we have the house next door on the right. I'd like to correct one thing from his image that he showed, which was not entirely correct, that lanai that was jutting out is actually not an encroachment. The easement starts on the edge of that. So that does not set a precedent for future building. So our lake is responsible indeed for handling the stormwater of our community. And if you look at the map, you'll see those red arrows there. So we are handling not only the water for our own immediate Quail Lake, but also the water for all of those communities, areas to the right. And what happened with Irma was at those arrows, those culverts, those flow-throughs got impacted. All the water overflowed, and as a result, Quail Lake was filled with vegetation from all of that. We had water encroaching and climbing up that flood zone, halfway up that flood zone. So it may look that the easement is a bit overcautious on the part of the engineers who designed it, but a direct hit from a major hurricane is going to change all of that in a heartbeat. This Irma was not a direct hit, so we have yet to see the big one, come. So the easement was designed with an extra margin of safety and an eye to an uncertain climatic future, and we should be serving that in its entirety. Meanwhile, the stormwater, the easement does what it was also designed to do, which is to shed the water into the lake. Slide 2, please. Nearly all homeowners respect the easement. And this is a view of Quail Lake when we purchased our home in 2014. And you can see that continuous band of green running around the lake. So this is tremendous, both in terms of its visual aspect, but it's also beneficial to wildlife. We have a lot of waterfowl and ducks that use that area. Next, please. So when we purchased the house, we had an unobstructed wraparound view of the lake, and if you look at the window on the left, you can see that we can see clear through it. Next slide, please. This is our view today. This is illegal construction by the petitioners. Without permission, they build out into the easement, so instead of that lake view, this is what we have, the back of a barbecue grill. We have...
Thank you, sir. Sorry, 3 minutes is up. Thank you.
Madam Chair, may we have the speaker identify himself for the record?
Pardon me. If you would identify yourself, sir, please, give your name.
Oh, John Lampkin.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak opposed to item C1? Please come forward. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Mary Duncan. I live in Sun City. I'm a past president of North Lake Association, and we bought our property because of the lake. Sun City was built with lakes and ponds being a priority for home ownership, and it is still a priority. Without the easements, without the green around the lake, without the beauty of the lake, the property values will decrease. Right now, the property on a lake is much higher valued than that not on a lake. So from the perspective of aesthetics and property value, that's one reason that I would oppose this. And the precedent it would set, if it were on North Lake, I would be moving. As a president of Audubon, we talk all the time about protecting easements, protecting the green area. Ponds and lakes are the major source of biodiversity in our state. And to encroach further in the easement around any pond is not in the public good. You can talk about stormwater flow, but you also have to talk about the easement being something for the wildlife, for the birds, and also erosion and on individual property. I'm speaking from North Lake with Irma. With the wind blow, we have a big concrete seawall, and all along our area, the water came up 7 feet above the seawall. So that, if you have buildings then encroaching on that easement, that's going to stop it, and it's going to flow even further to the neighbors. So I can see why this neighbor is objecting. In addition, on North Lake, and I know from my own property, the erosion from rainwater going down the hills. And if we don't have porous materials, if we don't have greenery that can absorb rainwater, you're just going to have more erosion and the dirt and fill going into the ponds and ruining the ponds. So I think not only for the advantage, or not advantage, for the sake of the neighbors, but also for the good of the future, we need biodiversity. We need those ponds to stay as clean and clear as they are. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to item C1? Okay, we'll now move for discussion. Commissioner Higginbotham, you're recognized.
Thank you, and I appreciate the time to address this, board members. I'm going to make a few comments, and then I'm going to make a motion to deny, and I want you to understand why. I know these usually we just brush over these, and they move forward, and we go to the next one. But I have concerns here. I heard the word redundancy used. I think in the case of flooding, access for county to get in and address flooding issues is important. But I'll say, are you listening? More often than not, as I said, we do deny these, but this does have history, as the applicant said. And if you go back and you look at April 10, there was a similar request on this particular parcel, and it was to deny. So staff has wavered because of the difficulty, and I respect staff's decision. In in May of this year, they issued a statement that they needed to take a further look at this. It should be noted that in 2017, EPC granted the community there $20,000. We approved that here in these chambers, that $20,000 for habitat restoration along this area, because we as EPC board members saw the importance of that habitat restoration. Sadly, most of that money has gone towards drainage cleanup and to address the areas of getting proper water flow. The neighbors, in addition to that, above and beyond what they pay in taxes and stormwater fees, they chip in on a regular basis to clean up the drainage area to ensure that we have this redundancy, that we have an area that is in the future not going to flood. Earlier this year, we as a board voted to amend our CIP, our capital improvement program, by $87 million. It's a lot of money. And why did we do that? Because we're concerned about the future and what that might cause as far as future drainage and future flooding. I remember when I was a newly elected district commissioner, Commissioner White, I'm sure that you inherited a few from me as well, but in 2002, the board that sat here, they approved a project, I believe it's called Shops at Publix, and it's in the Valrico, Brandon area. And it actually was based around a failed, overstressed drainage system. Are you listening? Because that's what we're getting ready to take steps into with this request. Ended up with lengthy litigation. The county ended up having to buy several houses to address that, to get the drainage flow right. We have a chance to avoid those problems here today, and that's what I'm asking for. So why should we act any different today in ignoring what they have done in the past? The community plan also addresses it, and I think most of us have sat through the drawing up and the drafting of the community plans, and we have voted on those community plans. And the Greater Sun City Center community plan addresses the preservation of wildlife and habitat. That's in their the plan that those citizens put together, I think that on its own is a reason for denial. I know that I wasn't a big fan when these were going through, but I see now, as I've kind of grown and matured as a commissioner, the importance. It's kind of like yesterday when I was driving home, there were some sandhill cranes in a neighborhood. I was in the Brandon area, and I thought, isn't that interesting that they have learned to adapt to living in neighborhoods? Well, actually, it's just the opposite. We've taken their habitat. Here's an opportunity to keep that habitat, to preserve it. We could reduce it to the ridiculous and say, this is only 1,100 square feet. That's no big deal. Where does it stop? Where does it start? I have a question or two of Mr. Lampkin, if he could come up for just a moment.
Yes, Commissioner?
Yes, sir. Do you have a homeowners association that has any covenants?
No, we don't. And the homeowners association obviously would have put a stop to that encroachment long ago. And for 40 years, the easement there has served to protect our community from encroachments like that. You know, the development was platted out so that each home had a very good view of the lake. And so by building out of that easement, you're contradicting the original plan of the community, which was equitable and fair to all neighbors. You know, the problem with this is that the vacating the easement here benefits only one person, and that's the petitioners, one couple. And that's the petitioners. There is no public benefit. Our neighborhood loses from this. And a homeowner association would, of course, nip it in the bud, but we don't have one. So on behalf of my wife and our neighborhood and the people who have signed letters of support for this position, we're imploring you and begging you to, you know, deny this request.
And this
it's
map
not in
that
the
you
best
had,
interest of the public.
the map you had showing flow charts, where did that come from? Or the flow of
Want to see
drainage?
it again, or?
No, it's okay.
Okay. I worked with, obviously I was involved in the cleanup from Irma, but to prepare this map, I worked with Sam Sudman, whom some of you may know, and Sam is Mr. Drainage in Sun City Center. He's involved in everything aquatic and everything drain related, and I've worked with him on the both on preparing this map to indicate the flow, and also with other members of our CA board. We're going to be preparing a master plan, a new master plan, that will address these easement issues, ensuring that that band of green is preserved throughout, not just Quail Lake, of course, but throughout our entire community. And I worked with Sam, as mentioned earlier, with that $20,000 grant that you so graciously gave us through the EPC to clean up the canal.
So you've had conversation with the association?
Oh, yes. Okay. And they're not allowed to they have to maintain silence on these issues, of course. But obviously, they're concerned about these things, and wholeheartedly they support the preservation of green areas around our lake.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to close with this and then make a motion. In 2016, May 2nd, we updated the vacation of drainage easements here in this room right here. 1.1.6 says that any portion being requested for vacation does not cause a cumulative impact. And there's a concern because when you look at the map where this request is, it's where the lake chokes down. I've stated that the neighbors chip in. EPC has made a grant to work on these drainage canals to stay ahead of this problem. But the vacation causes hardship to adjacent homeowners, such as leaving insufficient access and opportunities for drainage. And then 1.1.7 says it is in the public's interest to vacate an easement. And I see no interest for the public overall to grant this. So with all that said, and generally I'm not this long-winded, but this was one I felt strong about, board members, and I would hope that I would get your support, but I'll make a motion to deny.
Second. Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Higginbotham, to deny item C1, seconded by Commissioner Hagan. Commissioner White, you're recognized.
Thank you. Well, Commissioner Higginbotham, you have certainly made a compelling argument, and you have me thinking about this. I had a litany of questions, but the majority of them were answered during the staff presentation, so I want to thank staff for an excellent presentation. I also want to thank the county staff members that went out to personally visit the site. Obviously, you know, this is up for debate, as Commissioner Higginbotham has stated, but it could at least be argued that in this case, we do have duplicative drainage easements because of the property changing hands, changing developers' hands over time. Is that what I heard in the presentation?
Yes, would you like to answer his question? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner, for that question. It has been said to me by the Public Works that it is duplicative. If for further information, I would request that our county engineer, Mike Williams, respond more specifically to that.
I'd like to have Mr. Williams say a few words because, you know, I am incredibly supportive of our policy of not encroaching on these easements, but, you know, my understanding has been that this one is somewhat unique.
Good morning.
Good morning. Mike Williams with Public Works Department. It is, because of the way it was platted, the properties were platted twice, really. That drainage easement was there with the initial platting, and then when it was platted again later, and then the property was actually developed, they put additional drainage easements. And if you recall from some of the pictures, the 15 feet that they're talking about is kind of flat with the lot. It's graded with the lot, so it wouldn't provide any additional drainage support or freeboard from flooding. And the reality is, between the seawall and the remaining drainage easement, if this vacation is approved, is approximately 24 or 25 feet, which is enough for us to maintain that area if we ever needed to.
Okay. I have a question from a code enforcement perspective. And the one photograph that the applicant showed, it looked like some pavers had been laid down for the barbecue grill to be on. And I think I saw a pole with some lighting and things like that. What's the status of those things if this petition is denied today?
Commissioners, those items, those installations, the pavers and the posts in the ground, do not require permitting from the county. So those items are things that can go in on the ground as long as they're not inconsistent with the functioning of the area as a drainage easement. But from a regulatory standpoint, that's not something that's permitted or something that need to get permits for. So those installations are not currently in a state of violation from our code standpoint.
Okay. I'd like to ask by show of hands if we have any citizens here on this issue that did not speak. No?
Oh, yes, we do. Two.
Okay.
Two.
So so we have two. I'd say raise your hand if you're here in support. You didn't speak? So
Yeah.
So you're here in opposition?
No, he's here just.
No, the other two folks. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Can they, I just want to ask a question. Can they do something up to where the flags are? No, they can't do anything without getting this easement.
Currently, because where the drainage easement is, they cannot get any permitted work in that drainage easement area.
Okay,
we
gotcha.
won't issue any building permits for work.
Because, I mean, I saw the flags in the picture. I didn't know if that was the boundary.
I think the flags in the picture were something that were put by the applicant to
Oh,
show
I see.
the area.
Oh, I thought county did. Okay, Commissioner Kemp, you're recognized.
Well, just to that point, when they speak about a screened-in porch or lanai or what, there's, without the easement, there's a place in there to do that. They could do that.
Yes, if the easement were vacated, there is room to build that, and they would have the ability to pull permits to do that.
And if the easement wasn't vacated?
They would not be able to get any work permitted. They would not be permitted to build that.
Well, not in the easement, but how about between the back of the house and the easement?
That's what I was asking.
You're right.
They can.
They can? Can't.
Yes, there's no impediment. They could get it permitted up to the easement. Looks like he has a pool or something in the backyard already, so where it would fit, it would have to fit houseward of the existing easement, and that could be permitted today.
Okay, without, I mean, yeah, so
I wanted to clarify on that.
this because I agree.
I just wanted to thank everyone who came to talk, and I thank you for the education specifically about that. I'd also like to thank you, Commissioner Higginbotham, for the history and the understanding of that particular piece of land and that lake there. I'm going to vote to deny on this, and I think the points raised were very, very good, and it sounds like the homeowner can have a screened-in porch on that area that they have.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Higginbotham.
Mr. Williams, could you come back up? And as you're coming up, we talk about this being duplicative and overlap being different builders, but remember, board members, in March, I think it was earlier this year, we voted to amend the CIP by $87 million to be cautious for what may happen in the future. And you're confident, I'm putting you on the spot here, Mike, that we'll never have a storm that would dump enough rain and wind that would cause issues. There'd never be a problem here.
Well, never's a pretty long time.
And I'm putting you on the spot,
But we looked at the 100-year floodplain.
Right.
And if the easement is vacated, the remaining easement, the 100-year floodplain would stay within the existing or the remaining drainage easement. So the 100-year floodplain does not encroach into the area that's proposed to be vacated.
Okay, thank you.
But never's,
Yeah, and we can tell that to the people in Houston too. So, and I'm not taking a swipe at you, but I don't have any other questions.
Thank you. Commissioner White, you're recognized.
I think Commissioner Kemp and Commissioner Merman are onto something that's important. This gentleman can build right up to the line of the drainage easement. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And how many feet remain between the end of any existing structure and the easement line?
Thank you, Commissioner. We do not have that information. Perhaps the property owner has an estimation of that distance.
I'd like to ask the property owner for an estimation.
Could you, sir, could you come forward? Thank you.
All right, what is the question, please?
Approximately, staff said you have a pool or something in your backyard?
I have no pool in my backyard.
Okay. So the exterior wall of your house that's where any structure
Ends, yes.
ends? Okay.
And then I have a paver patio.
Okay.
That is in the back of the yard right now, yes.
You want to tear that out?
No, I would like to put a screened-in covered patio over the...
As an extension of that?
No, on top of where the existing patio is.
Okay.
All I want to do is put in a screen room. That's all I want to do.
Okay.
It's not a...
Does the patio encroach into the drainage easement?
Microphone.
From the graphic that's in the backup, it appears that the screened-in patio goes up to, it doesn't look like it encroaches into the setback area.
You mean the existing patio that's not screened?
That's correct.
Can I show the picture again?
I'd like to see the picture again. I think this is pretty important. Sir, there's a microphone over there. If you want to point to some things as you're speaking.
Commissioners, for reference, page 3 of the backup has an aerial view of this that shows the easement area in question.
Okay. Hello? Okay. What you see, I'm sorry the picture doesn't come out as clear as it is, but if you look at the lake, you have a series of flags that's up on the plateau, okay? And then 15 feet towards the house is the other end of the easement. Okay, thanks. Yeah, so this is where the easement starts on my house, and then this is where it ends. This is all the flat land that the easement is on. And where's the other picture?
See.
Yeah. Here's another shot that shows this is where it is closest to the lake. You got all this land right here that is open with a significant slope in it. That's what I was trying to propose. These flags were done not by me. They were done by the county, had their survey people come out and place them in there because there was lengthy discussion about where the existing easement was. And it's way up on the top of the plateau where, you know, I would like to have a screen room. There's lots of no-see-ums, and that's the only reason why I want a screen room, is to protect from mosquitoes and no-see-ums.
Okay, further questions, Commissioner White?
So let me just ask this bottom line. From the rear exterior wall of your house to the edge of the drainage easement that's closest to your house, about how many feet is that?
I'm guessing. I would say it's probably 15 feet, maybe. It's hard to put a table, you know, and chairs in something that short of a distance.
Yep. Well, I came to the meeting today with a certain mindset and with a certain position in mind, but Commissioner Higginbotham, I'll say that your presentation and your speech has changed my mind. You know, I do take the issues to heart that you've mentioned with respect to what the EPC's done out there, with respect to the importance of the green space. Sounds as if the gentleman has about 15 feet to work with. That's a lot of room. I mean, you know, 15 feet is a lot when you're talking about a patio or a lanai. So Commissioner Higginbotham, you've changed my mind, and I'll be supporting your motion.
And I would withdraw my comments.
Okay. Commissioner Christ for final comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Similar to Commissioner White, I had a predetermined thought on this as well after reviewing the application. And listening to the testimony, and Commissioner Higginbotham, both you and Hagan were very compelling in your arguments. I too will be voting in denial of the application.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have closed the public hearing, had board discussion. We have a motion by Commissioner Higginbotham, second by Commissioner Hagan, to deny item C1. Is there any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, please record your vote. Motion to deny.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Joe, before you start, we did have a lot of new people come into the room, and I just wanted to see, is anyone who intends to present testimony, evidence, or otherwise be heard on any matter scheduled for consideration at today's meeting, please stand and raise your right hand so the clerk may swear you in, because I knew we had quite a few. So please stand. Anyone wishing to be heard on any further items on the agenda? Okay. You want to go ahead and read the oath?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you all. Thank you for your patience. Okay, Mr. Moreto, go on to C2.
Thank you, Commissioners. That brings us to C2. Carrie Allen from Real Estate is going to make this presentation as well.
Item C2 today is vacate ID V160039. This is a petition by Iglesia La Única Verdad, Inc. and Danva Real Estate, LLC, to vacate a portion of unimproved platted right-of-way known as West Nome Street and platted as Cadron Avenue. The subject area is located between West Waters Avenue and West Sly Avenue, east of North Manhattan Avenue in Tampa. This petition request is made for the purpose of development of a church or church-related facility. This petition was routed to appropriate departments and agencies, and there are no objections to the vacation of this portion of right-of-way. Staff recommends approval of this petition request.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. We will now open the public hearing on item C2. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of item C2? Please come forward. Item C2. Speak in favor. Okay, anyone wishing to speak in opposition to item C2, please come forward. Okay, great. We'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Higginbotham to approve item C2. Seeing no further discussion, please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. This brings us to item E1. This is a public hearing for personal appearance 18-0407, located on the southeast corner of Fowler Avenue and Walker Road. It also has frontage along Williams. Commissioners, this is an older plan development approved in 1989. It allows our recreational vehicle park. This recreational vehicle park also has a storage component to it that allows storage of RVs, vehicles, and boats. The request now is to open that up to the public, as right now it's restricted only to those using the RV park itself, and also to acquire an access point added to the plan development for access to that area of the site. Staff has reviewed the request and is recommending approval with conditions.
Great. Good morning.
Good morning,
and
Commissioners.
You'll have 15 minutes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hopefully
You're the
won't need
applicant?
Anywhere near that. I am. Clayton Bricklemeyer Law Group. I just moved, so 601 Kennedy. I got to get used to that. In the interest of time, I would characterize this as sort of a lot of cleanup. I think the driving factor is that the DOT did not like access on the 301 at this point, which drove us to create an access point on Williams Road. And the goal here is to keep traffic out of the western access point. Our transportation staff was adamant about that. So we've worked with staff, and we really appreciate their work, and we're available for questions.
Great. Thank you very much for your presentation. We will now open up the public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of item E1? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to item E1? Okay, close the public hearing. Board action. Motion by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Higginbotham to approve item E1. Seeing no further discussion or questions, please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. This brings us to item E2. This is a personal appearance 18-0602. It's a public hearing to consider a minor modification to a PD to allow for an accessory dwelling on a lot within that plan development. Accessory dwellings are typically referred to as grandmother flats. Staff has reviewed this and is recommending approval.
Thank you for the explanation. Are you the applicant?
I'm be giving sorry.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Saul Wali. I live at 3323 Southwell Road, Waimama, Florida, 33598. I'm going to give the, sorry, I'm very nervous.
That's fine. Have you been sworn in?
Yes.
Okay, great. Just take your time.
Okay.
You've got 15 minutes.
Okay. I would like to request the approval to have an accessory de-welding on my mother-in-law's property so my family and I can continue living there. My mother-in-law's health is not very good, and we would like to be close to her as assists her, and also she can enjoy her grandchildren. My mother-in-law offered us to move our mobile home there since the rent where we had it increased dramatically, and it was difficult for us to pay for it. My wife and I have 3 kids, and we don't have the resources to buy a piece of land to move our mobile home. Our neighbors on to the south, sorry, sorry.
You can put that up, the picture up over there. Do you need
Yes.
to point to anything on the photo?
I was just going to show you the...
You can go over there. There's a microphone over there, and you can point to whatever you need to.
Okay. Our neighbors here on the south side also gave us a letter of approval so we could have our mobile home where we have it at right now, because it's kind of close to their property. But we have one where it says that they don't mind us having our mobile home close to their property. That's also one thing I wanted to show there.
Okay, very good.
Okay. The lot is very large, and our mobile home does not impact our neighbor. Our next door neighbor, closer to our mobile home, gave us a letter of support, which we submitted as part of our application. I have a copy of this in case you would like to see it.
No.
Madam Chair, I move for approval.
Well, we have to do the public hearing.
All right.
So, sir, you're doing a great job, and I think we understand your item really well. So if you, and really thank you for coming here today and presenting. I think we can just go right to the public hearing and see, allow the public to speak if anybody is here in favor of it, and then we'll move to vote on your item. Okay?
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Is there anyone here, we'll open up the public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of item E2? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
Move the item.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Hagan to approve item E2. Seeing no further discussion, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Sir, your item's been approved. Thank you very much for coming down here. Okay, next item.
Thank you, Commissioners. This brings us to item E2, personal appearance 18-0606. This is a plan development that was approved in 2007, located in Ruston.
We're on item E3.
Did I say E2? I'm sorry. E3. My bad. We are on personal appearance 18-0600. It's located in Ruskin. It's located on the northwest quadrant of 21st Street, Southeast 11th Avenue. The entitlements include 310 dwelling units. Within those entitlements, there's 180 single-family units, 130 multifamily units. The project includes on the north half the multifamily component of those entitlements. The applicant is requesting to convert those entitlements into single family, so they're converting that from multifamily to single family. They're also asking for development standards that correspond to what they're seeking in the site development of the site, including some slight changes to the site plan itself. Staff is recommending approval of this.
Thank you for the explanation. You're the applicant.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning. William Malloy, 325 South Boulevard. There's not a lot I can add to what Mr. Moretta said. The crux of this application is to take 130 multifamily units and convert them to 54 single-family, and then update the development standards accordingly.
Okay, very good. We'll now open the public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of item E3? Anyone here to speak in opposition to item E3? Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Hagan to approve item E3. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, next item.
E4 is the next item, personal appearance -18-0631. This is located in Brandon. It's an amendment to a plan development approved in 1999. Commissioners, this deals with the redistribution of the existing entitlements. The applicant is requesting to reallocate approved square footage into an out parcel configuration to increase the out parcel to 10,000 square feet and decrease that area by 5,000 square feet from the main area of the commercial where it's coming from. Staff has reviewed this, and we are recommending approval.
Okay, thank you very much. The applicant here. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Dallas Evans, civil engineer and principal with Landis Evans and Partners on behalf of the applicant. My address is 18115 U.S. Highway 41 North in Lutz, and I have been sworn. And that is correct. This rezoning has been in place since 1999. Currently, it allows for 35,000 square feet of BPO uses on the rear portion with 5,000 as an out parcel. We're simply asking to increase the out parcel allocation to 10,000 square feet and reduce the rear portion by a corresponding amount to 30,000 square feet. Uses will remain the same, overall entitlements will remain the same, and access points will remain the same. So the overall development will not change in any way the impact on the surrounding community. We respect your decision and hope for approval.
Great, thank you very much. We'll now open the public hearing on item E4. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of item E4? Anyone here to speak in opposition to item E4? Close the public hearing. Motion by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner White to approve item E4. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, next item.
Next item is E5. Commissioners, this is personal appearance 18-0639, located in Apollo Beach on 19th Northeast Avenue. This project has existing entitlements of 351 dwelling units and 5,000 square feet of neighborhood commercial restricted use. The applicant is proposing to reconfigure the internal site design using those same entitlements. No new entitlements are requested. They're moving the community gathering space to the east. They're moving their 5,000 square foot commercial, which is located on the south part of the site, to the west, and moving their access point to the north. Staff has reviewed this, and we are recommending approval with conditions.
Thank you for the explanation. Applicant here. Good morning.
Good morning. Morris Massey, Hillward Henderson, 101 East Kennedy Boulevard in Tampa, here on behalf of the applicant. Mr. Moretta has described the changes. They really are internal to the site, moving the location of the retail, moving the community gathering space to the internal part of the project, and realigning the internal road network. We would ask for your approval. We're here for any questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of item E5? Anyone here speaking in opposition to item E5? I'm not sure if this lady is coming forward. No. Okay. So we have closed the public hearing. We have a motion by Commissioner Hagan, second by Commissioner Miller. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Commissioner Higginbotham? Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you, Commissioners. This brings us to item E6. This is a personal appearance 18-0640. This is located in Lutz. It's located along U.S. Highway 41, just north of Crystal Grove, on the west side of US 41. This plan development was approved in 2003. It includes the two development options for commercial. One is a retail option. Another option is to allow mini storage. The applicant is requesting for a change in condition as it pertains to the mini storage option only. They're requesting to use septic system to provide the service for the mini storage component of the site only. If it's redeveloped with another type of commercial, then the condition that requires a connection would apply. This is in the rural service area. I would note that the rural service area does not allow a connection to those types of services that are required in these conditions. From a review of the record in 2003, there was a concern about the well system in the area. Some residents were concerned about their wells being contaminated, and that condition was imposed on this rezoning. The applicant is only seeking for that condition or exemption from that condition to apply to the mini storage. Since the mini storage has very low flows, staff is recommending approval of that exemption just for the mini storage to allow the septic system to apply to that component of the plan development. And as I said, we are recommending approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the explanation. Is the applicant here? Good morning. You have 15 minutes. Have you've been sworn in?
Yes, I have.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is John Mueller with Landis Evans and Partners, 18115 U.S. Highway North, number 600 in Lutz, Florida. As stated, we are asking for the use of septic in regards to the mini storage use. We concur with the staff recommendations. And as a note, currently the site is under construction for the mini storage project. So we are committed to moving forward with the mini storage use. And with that, I'm available to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll open the public hearing on item E6. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of item E6? Anyone speaking in opposition to item E6? Close the public hearing. Board action. Motion by Commissioner Higginbotham, seconded by Commissioner Chris. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Okay, next item.
Next item is E7. This is personal appearance 18-0715. This pertains to a plan development approved in 2003, which allows a gasoline convenience store on a 4.5-acre parcel. It's generally located at the southeast corner of US 41 in a small drive by the name of Universal Drive. The applicant is asking for a secondary access point on a Universal Drive. Staff has reviewed this, and we are recommending approval with conditions.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. Applicant?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Clayton Bricklemeyer Law Group, 601 Kennedy. Yeah, we're happy with the staff report. This is just to allow for the redevelopment of this site. It's going to be a nicer store, so we're available for questions.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move to open the public hearing. Anyone here is wishing to speak in favor of item E7? Anyone here to speak in opposition to item E7? Close public hearing. Motion by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner White. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item is E8, personal appearance -18-0791. This is located in the Egypt Lake area on 3425 West Canyon Avenue. Commissioners, this is a request to amend a plan development to recognize changes in zoning conditions in the area since the approval of the original PD in 2005. The applicant is requesting to reduce the buffer area from 20 feet to 10 feet along the east and west property boundary. The site now to the west is zoned RMC 16, which permits a maximum of 16 units an acre. The site to the east is a planned development that was approved for 77 townhomes or multifamily. The applicant is proposing to reduce that buffer from 20 to 10 in width in recognition of these changed conditions. The staff recognize that the LDC would require actually 0 buffer width if the site were developed next to multifamily. So if those sites on either side develop with multifamily, the code would actually require 0. So this is still netting out 10 more feet than what the code does require. Staff is recommending approval.
Thank you for the explanation and presentation. The applicant, good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. For the record, Ty Maxey with Macer Consulting, representing the applicant. I think Mr. Moretta explained the petition. I'd be available to answer any of your questions.
Thank you very much. Move to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of item E8? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to item E8? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public hearing. Motion by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Chris to approve item E8. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you. Next item.
Thank you. This brings us to item E9, personal appearance -18-0806. This particular plan development is located on the south side of 19th Avenue Northeast, located approximately 1,100 feet northeast of on the west side of I-75. This is a TECO substation. The site is regulated by PD that was approved in 2001. The applicant is requesting an access point on 19th Avenue. Staff is recommending approval.
Okay, thank you very much. The applicant here. Good morning.
Morning again, John Mueller with Landis Evans and Partners, 18115 US 41 North, Lutz. I have been sworn. I'm here representing TECO. As mentioned, they plan to build a substation here to support the whole South Shore development, including the Amazon warehouse that's been constructed there. They would like to have an additional access to 19th for their service personnel to access the site. This driveway connection won't be open to the public and will only be accessed by TECO personnel on average about once a month. And with that, I'm available to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you very much for your presentation. We'll now move to the public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of item E9? Anyone here speaking in opposition to item E9? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Board action. Motion by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Kemp and Chris to approve item E9. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Next item.
Item E10, personal appearance 18-0813, located at 11536 Trotting Down Drive, located in Keystone, Odessa. This is an amendment to a plan development for a single lot. This plan development was approved in 2000. The request is to allow an accessory dwelling unit for a parcel within that PD. Staff is recommending approval with conditions.
Thank you very much for the explanation. Is the applicant here for item E10? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. George Stamus with Pioneer Homes. I'm here to represent the applicants, and we agree with the staff presentation. Here to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you very much. Don't see any questions at this time. Now open the public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of item E10? Anyone here to speak in opposition to item E10? Close the public hearing. Motion by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Chris. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Next item.
The next item on the agenda is item E11. This is personal appearance -18-0824. Commissioners, this is located in the Riverview area. It's a plan development that was approved several years ago and actually was rezoned through the zoning conformance process in 1981. It's on McMullen Loop Road, and as I said, it's been out there for several years. The existing entitlements include 298 spaces for a mobile home RV park. The applicant is requesting to increase the unit count from 298 to 307, and they're also proposing to reconfigure the location and layout of the park itself. In reviewing this, staff fielded calls regarding the need for a fence to the site, or a zoning condition to recognize the construction of a fence with approximately, I believe it's 5 to 7 homes on the northwest portion of the site. The applicant has agreed to that condition subsequent to the filing of the report. And there's also an issue that came up regarding the 125-foot buffer area that the applicant indicated on the site plan. There's 3 slight encroachments of mobile home park spaces into those areas, and this came up after the report was filed as well. And those encroachments have been recognized in the zoning condition, so that area of the site would be compliant if this is approved, and there will also be a requirement for a fence to be provided in the site development approval process, or notwithstanding, just a fence is going to have to be required in that area by zoning if this is approved. With those conditions and the other conditions that staff is recommending, we found it approvable.
Okay, thank you very much. We are on item E11. You're the applicant.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Gibbs. Good morning. Dan
You have
Gibbs
15 minutes.
With Atwell LLC, 1800 Parkway Place, Marietta, Georgia. I'm also with Bill Dietz, who's a VP with Sun Communities. We're in agreement with staff recommendations. The fence in question has already been approved through the budget, and they're in the process of getting it constructed on the site, and we're available for any other questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner White, you're recognized.
Sir, I do have a question for you. You mentioned that the fence is budgeted. There's a fence in the area that requires the screening that's in a state of disrepair currently, and the intention is to tear that down and build an entire new fence?
Yes, sir, that'll be replaced. Bids are in place. That will happen prior to these approvals. If somebody, as long as the county doesn't stop us in permitting, we'll put that fence up before the project
Very
starts.
good. Yeah, okay. I just wanted to ask about that on the record today. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that question because I know there have been several calls asking for a fence, so just wanted to make sure that was being done.
Yes, ma'am. That fence has been in disrepair. We're fairly new ownership. It's been scoped to replace, and this just will accelerate that for me, frankly.
Very good. Very good. Are you done with your presentation? Okay, we'll move to a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of item E11? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to item E11, please come forward. And identify yourself for the record.
My name's, I haven't been sworn in either. So.
Okay, you need to be sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
My name's Eileen Dubas, and I live on Tidal Breach Drive in the adjoining neighborhood to the McMullen Loop community. And I don't necessarily oppose, but I have a question and concern about a portion that I didn't hear mentioned.
Okay, do you want to go ahead and ask that question?
My understanding from looking at the plans is that there's going to be a security gate.
Is that could you come forward and answer her question so we have it on the record?
And where the gate is now, it's all the way up and around McMullen Loop at the top of the community. But where I understood it's going to be, and maybe you can explain it, that it's going to be very close to our community entrance now, and we're concerned about impact on our entrance in and also the corner property, at what type of facility it's going to be, if it's going to be a hut, if it's going to be, there are going to be lights, et cetera.
Okay, and he's going to put a map on the Elmo, and there's a microphone there, and you can explain to it.
There's the gate right there that's in question is right here. It's several hundred feet in from the entrance that we're at right now. We were proposing to have a gated entrance and a manned kind of gatehouse that could be manned if needed to kind of just staff and help enter the people that are coming into the park at this location. Currently, there isn't one. All the RVs can drive through a good portion of the site and come up to the main building up there where they have to check in, and it's not a really good flow, a really good functioning system for how they want to do this. They want to have, you know, an access point prior to getting into the park where they can prevent people from getting in that aren't supposed to get in, or you know, make sure they're taking reservations and stuff at the right location. So, but you know, as far as the number of people that are coming into it, I'm not saying it would never back up, but it's not going to be where you're going to have like 8 or 10 of these things backing up. There'll be, and Bill can kind of speak to that a little bit more. It's just going to be very limited.
Could you
access.
point out where it is relation to Tidal Breach Drive, which is right?
Tidal Breach Drive is right here, and this location is right here. And if you've ever been out there, there's quite a bit of different distance from there all the way to where the current existing road is out there, where McMullen Loop kind of goes into the site.
Can you point out where the current one is? It's not really a security gate, but it's that entrance near the clubhouse.
Yeah, it's basically right up here, yes.
So, and then if you look at that corner property, so is it on the other side of the woods?
Yes, yes.
So
yes.
it's further up from that, what is it, 308 feet or something, clearance of woods between our property and the...
Yeah.
So it's on the other side
It's
of that?
not all the way to the end, but it's close to the end,
Okay,
yes.
because it's not going to be, because
No,
the
no.
way we thought about the property line, that it was going to be right next to Tidal Breach Drive, and it looked, and that other house.
I might have a little more familiarity. So the road in question that you're talking about, the tree line runs almost completely to the back row of those houses now. So that 300 feet of tree line is in that, and you can see the gate comes up. Those sites are probably 50 feet deep, Dan, or something like that. So we're 100 feet from where we make the bend, basically, onto that big section of open land.
So it won't be abutting
No, ma'am.
because it's not my house, but we're just concerned about noise and lights and
Yeah, we will minimize that.
walkie-talkies and all that.
Operationally, in heavy peak times, those gates are typically open because we have to maintain them for mail service and EMS service and things like that. So during the daytime hours, most of the time I would expect, I personally oversee that property, that they're open. They'll close at 7 o'clock at night. The gates really are, you know, if you live in that area, we've had a lot of traffic through there and had some challenges with things going on, and we really are trying to make that problem go away.
We wouldn't mind a few speed bumps because it's a bad.
Okay.
And then I think that answers my question, but.
Answer your question?
One of our board directors is here, and I don't know if Don wants to speak, but we also had a concern how they were going to manage flooding because our neighborhood apparently was the cause of flooding in the vicinity, and we had to do thousands of dollars worth of cleanup, which included lifting fences. So we just want to know that that's going to be considered and addressed. So, I
Okay.
don't know.
There is a flooding question. Would you all like to answer that question in addition while
Yeah.
she's up here?
And we haven't got into the specific details and design of the flooding, other than to say we are about to engage with a local engineer that has done many flood studies and no-rise studies for Hillsborough County. Sorry, and the areas, the lower areas that are down in the floodplain right now, there's currently about 77 of them, and we're going to relocate 39 of those up into the upland areas so that they'll be out of the flood area, and we're going to just, there'll only be 38 existing sites down here, so we're trying to greatly reduce the number of sites that are down in there.
And you're going to be adding ponds, I think? Is that on the plan?
There will be ponds added wherever we're required to for, with Southwest Florida permitting.
Are your questions answered?
No, thank you for the opportunity. And did we have anything else? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So we're fine now, I think, as long as those things are addressed the way they said they'd be.
Okay, very good. And that, okay, is there anyone else here wishing to speak on item E11? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. We have a motion by Commissioner Hagan, seconded by Commissioner White. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioners. Next item is item E12. This is a request to establish the Cypress Mill Community Development District, CDD-18-0531. Mr. John Healy of our staff will make a brief presentation on this and be available for questions.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Healy, Development Services Department. The application is to establish the Cypress Mills CDD. It will consist of approximately 270 acres, generally located between I-75 and US 301 on the north side of 19th Avenue. The property is within a planned development zoning district, and it's approved for residential and commercial uses. It's anticipated the development will consist of single-family detached units. The application has submitted the information required by Chapter 190 to establish a community development district. The district and the application have been reviewed by the various county departments, and based upon the information received and the department reviews, staff recommends approval of the petition to establish the Cypress Creek CDD. I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are on item E12. We'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of item E12? Anyone here wishing to speak in opposition to item E12? E12. Hold on one second. Yes, sir?
In favor, ma'am.
You're in favor? Okay.
Brian Lamb, Meritus Corp. I've been sworn here on behalf of the petitioner, Lennar Homes, Inc., and available for any questions regarding the petition submitted
very
to the
good.
district.
Thank you so much. Anyone here, anyone else wishing to speak to item E12? And motion by Commissioner Miller, second by Commissioner White. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, now we're going to move into oral arguments.
Thank you, Commissioners. This brings us into item G2, as G1 was already heard. And yes, these cases do.
Let's go ahead and get a motion to open for oral argument. Motion by Commissioner Miller, second by Commissioner Kemp to open for oral argument. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 5-2.
Thank you. Okay, Jeff.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is a rezoning to a standard district. The current zoning of the site is AS1, which permits 1-acre lots. The request is to rezone to RSC2, which permits a minimum half-acre lot. The site is located in Riverview at 11402 Rollerson Road. The site itself is located just south of Boyette Road on Rollerson Road. It's separated from Boyette Road by a commercially zoned parcel, which is zone CN, and it's on the east side of the road. This is a 1.8-acre site, more or less. Commissioners, the request again is to go to a half-acre minimum lot size, RSC2. When this applicant initially applied and went through the ZHM, the request was for half-acre lots, but they also had requested as part of their application to include a mobile home overlay, which would allow either a conventional home or a mobile home to be placed on that lot. They have since, subsequent to the ZHM, requested to remove the mobile home overlay. So right now, what's before you is RSC2 without the mobile home, so it would have to be a conventional home. Staff has reviewed the request, and we found it to be approvable, subject to the existing and emerging development pattern in the area. It is Res 4 in the comp plan. It is in the urban service area, and it has a pretty established pattern of smaller lot development to the north of the site, and also zoning activity that has occurred to the east of the site for RSC 9, which is a much smaller lot than what's proposed here. So staff is recommending approval, and oral argument has been filed.
Okay, thank you very much. Is the applicant here? Please come forward. And you'll have 10 minutes.
Good morning. My name is James Scoggins, 12850 Raised Brook Drive in Riverview, Florida. I'm proposing to change my property from AS1 to RSC2. I removed the mobile home overlay, and we're going to build 2 nice homes on there, and that's pretty much it. I'm here for questions.
Okay, very good. Well, you'll have, after you hear from all the public, you'll have an opportunity for a rebuttal. We will now move into the oral argument, and this is going to be limited to parties of record that actually appeared at the zoning hearing master. So James Davis. James Davis here. Tina Davis. John Garcia. Miriam Garcia. Mary M. Please come forward. And Perry? Okay, great. Please come forward. And these are all opposition. The total time for opponent testimony is 10 minutes.
No problem. Won't take that long. First off, thank you again for showing up, Mr. Scoggins. Residents couldn't show up. Everybody's working, so you have all the paperwork in front of you for the pictures, the PowerPoint presentation. I'm assuming everybody's read that by now. The petition of opposition of 16 names. I know I can only discuss what was discussed
At the zoning
right?
hearing, Master.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'll just reiterate, we do not want to lose the agricultural zoning of our area. As you stated, we are being encroached on with RSC 9s north, east, and west. Our little Rollerson Road is about the only thing left that has 1 acre sites or half-acre sites. So the agricultural and the 1 acre. I'm sorry, I should have put those two together. That's what we're trying to maintain. He had actually said that he wanted to split the property down the middle, so it would be a little more than a half acre on each site, but then they told me he was going to go for a variance to put in more than 2 homes on this site. If you'll look at the photos, you'll see everybody sits back, there's space between everybody. That kind of thing is what we're trying to maintain. Let's see. That's basically it. I wish there could be more people here. Again, I don't want to destroy anybody's dream. If this is what he really wanted to do with this property when he purchased it, he knew the zoning regulations at that time. He also had wanted to put in business professional offices before he changed it to this. So originally we were told a home with a accessory building, big 3,000 square foot home, and that's kind of what we all thought was going to happen until we saw the changes. So, you know, if that's what's going to happen. If you all have approved it, I still can't understand that. Nobody can. I only have the 16 signatures submitted, but the rest of the neighbors have been saying, how can this happen when there's so many of us that say no? So, and thank you all for your patience and guidance. I think I've talked to almost everybody here to help me through this process. It's a little difficult to navigate. And I do appreciate Mr. Scoggins removing the mobile home overlay. Most of the neighbors were opposed to that, and I didn't have a problem with that,
Right.
as long as there was only one home. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks for coming down. Jamie Nelson, Stephen Nelson, Carl Sharon. Is Carl here? And Diana Sharon. Okay, so we're now upon this record. Would you like to offer a rebuttal to? You have 5 minutes.
This all started because I wanted to put an accessory building up, but I didn't have there was no main building up. So we were told maybe we can go BPO. And then there was an uprising in the neighborhood, so I was like, well, that's not going to work. So we decided to go with RSC2 based on the RSC9 and all the building going around us. But what we really want to do is we've landed on splitting the property. Each property is going to be about 0.9. They'll have about 126 front each. It's about 315 feet deep. And we want to build homes in the 3,000 to 3,500 range, square foot range. And it's going to be basically the same houses that are in the Fish Hawk subdivision. We've already spoken with 2 different builders, and we've landed with one builder that we think we're going to go with. And then we're not going to go with a variance, because you'd have to have a variance to have a 3rd septic tank. But it will have city water. I think that we're going to have nice gates and access driveways to the properties. It's going to be really nice.
Okay, so you aren't applying for the variance?
No, I am not.
Okay. Okay, so we will now go to the Planning Commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Tony Garcia, Planning Commission staff. The applicant is requesting a rezoning from agricultural single-family to residential single-family conventional 2, which would allow the applicant to place mobile homes on the site. The request is supported by Comprehensive Plan Policy 20.3, which recognizes manufacturing housing as a means to provide affordable housing for citizens of Hillsborough County. This rezoning would allow for development that is compatible and comparable with the existing development pattern, as there is a mobile home neighborhood to the south of the subject property that is zoned residential single-family conventional 3 with a mobile home overlay. The site is within the urban service area and should meet minimum density requirements. However, the site is currently on septic and per the Land Development Code could potentially add 1 more housing unit. As such, staff finds the site meets the exception to the minimum density. You've heard that amended already this afternoon or this morning still by the applicant. While the site is located within the limits of the Riverview Community Plan and the South Shore Area-wide Systems Plan, no community plan language or policies were found applicable to the request. Based on these considerations, the Planning Commission staff found the proposed request consistent with the comprehensive plan for Hillsborough County. Thank you.
Very good. Zoning Hearing Master?
The zoning hearing master considered the request and found that the rezoning lies in a residential 4 area on the future land use map, and found that the site is within the urban service area and should meet the minimum density requirements of policy 1.2 of the future land use element. However, limited by public infrastructure, the site qualifies for an exception to the minimum density criteria. The zoning hearing master found that north and adjacent to the subject site is a property zoned neighborhood commercial. South, east, and west of the subject site consists of AS1 zoning that permits mobile home housing. As you heard, the applicant has removed the request for the mobile home overlay from this rezoning request. The zoning hearing master had considered the RSC9 zoning in the area, as well as an RSC3 district with a mobile home overlay along Rollerson Road, and finding that overall the rezoning would allow for development that's comparable and compatible with the existing development pattern, and therefore the ZHM recommended approval.
Very good, thank you. And we're now on board discussion and vote. I will tell you, when they removed the mobile home overlay, it did change. I think that it made it more palatable for me. Board discussion and vote, seeing none, board action.
Move the item.
Motion by Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Chris to approve item G2. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, we'll now move to G3, and may I have a motion to open for oral argument? Motion by Commissioner Chris, seconded by Commissioner Kemp. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you, Commissioners. This brings us to G3 on the agenda. This is a rezoning for planned development, specifically 17-1081. The site is a 9.6 acre site located on the north side of 32nd Avenue, approximately 836 feet west of La Familia Lane. This site is currently zoned ASC1, and the proposal is for a planned development. The site has some history related to code enforcement. It came to us a few months ago, and the concern at that time was the ongoing events that have been associated with the site that had bans and neighborhood fair activity that were causing some code enforcement activity and some frustration in the neighborhood. That led to some inspection of the site, and there was a ongoing activity of a training facility that was being used. That's a nonprofit gym that trains boxing. It's a 501c3, as I understand it, or we understand it, it's for troubled youth. In review of this application, when it first came in, the applicant was proposing a plan that would include having the neighborhood fair events, as well as the gym training facility. And I would note that there are a number of different violations that have been recognized on the site, ranging from building and other code violations. But in conclusion, what the applicant is proposing is they've whittled down the request, and right now what it just distills down to a request for a gym training facility that is related to 501c3, and it recognizes some buildings in the site plan that need to go through some subsequent permitting activity. Because the gym was actually never reviewed for change in use, and because the ASC1 zoning does not permit the gym facility, if this zoning is approved, they would have to go through subsequent permitting for that gym facility and the structures associated with it to comply all the structures with all the various codes that would comply to them. Again, since there's no neighborhood fair activity proposed, the plan development includes a specific condition that says no neighborhood fairs would be allowed on the site. So having said that, in consideration of those restrictions, staff found that the gym would be consistent and compatible with the surrounding area, with the condition that it would go through site development, and as I said before, that there would be no neighborhood events. We did find it to be consistent and compatible with the area, are recommending approval with conditions. And there is oral argument filed again, but we have moved for that, so we're good to go.
Thank you very much for that explanation. Before we have the applicant come forward, there has been additional evidence requested, and I'll refer to the county attorney now to advise us.
Yes, Madam Chairman. I had reviewed the request for additional evidence by a couple of individuals, and that evidence was something that could have been submitted prior to the zoning hearing master. Therefore, it doesn't meet the standard for admission, and I'd recommend that the board deny that request.
Okay, so I need a motion to deny the additional evidence requested. Motion by Commissioner Chris, seconded by Commissioner Kemp. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, and applicant, please come forward. And you'll have 10 minutes.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Will Velez. I've been sworn in. I am the founder of Hurricane Boxing Gym, 501c3, registered by the IRS for the last 18 years. We started back in 2002 in Ybor City. As a lot of people here in the Bay Area know, Ybor City has developed very well. We no longer could afford the rent we were paying. We were kind of helped by this preacher who, his daughter became my fiancée in 9 days. As was mentioned before, the only structure that was there, and it was not in my presence, I was out of the state for personal death on the family. When I came back, I had to deal with situations. We immediately took care of the situations. We hired an architecture firm who's been helping us hand to hand with this. When we first got this property, I mean, you stand in the center, you look to the left, you look to the right, you couldn't see bushes, trash. It's on a dead end, so it was people used to dump all kinds of trash and all kinds of things. The owner didn't care about it until we, until my fiance's that was a preacher, took over and we started cleaning it up. Just to mention, as far as events and causing nuisance in the property, I mean, we were turned in by the opposition. We went to the co-enforcement hearing, none to find out that section 36-456 says that any assembly under 200 people does not need a permit, only a volunteer permit, and we always done that. Also, if you guys got in hand, I got from 2016 to 27 present, only sheriff has been dispatched 3 times for trespassing.
Excuse me, Mr. Velez. It's important that your testimony stay within what was presented during the zoning hearing master hearing.
Yes, it was, ma'am. This was turned in. You guys have this on hand, all these forms.
I have not seen that form as part of the zoning hearing master record, so you need to confine your testimony to the matter that was brought up at that hearing.
Okay, I'm sorry. What it was turned in?
Or April.
And also there was a complaint given by the EPC with none to happen. Also, that the EPC sent a clearance that we never had any problems with the EPC. Now, all we've done with this community, it's keeping our kids, which our youth, we deal with troubled youth. They come, they train. We don't charge them nothing. That's the motto of our gym. We also integrated the animals with them. They come every weekend and work with horses, animals, and therapies like that. And as far as all the co-enforcement matter, there has never been a site that we had to pay a fine on the co-enforcement. Now, the only thing we're dealing is with the building issue. As soon as the issue came up, we went to the building department. We turned architecture drawings. Then they told us we needed site drawings that were turned in. Then they told us that we needed to rezone. So at any given time, we had not fallen not to take care of this matter seriously. We have always tried to comply. That's why we hired the architectural firm, Mr. Jim Monjoy, who will explain.
Good morning. My name is James F. Monjoy Jr.
And you have about 7 minutes left.
Okay. I work with Patrick Sullivan Architects here in Tampa. Our office address is 8910 North Del Mabry Highway, Suite 22. The proposed use of the property is a mixture of gym, boxing training facility, and farm animal rescue, where the animals have been rehabilitated and with no other intent other than their well-being. Let it be noted there is no special events, fairs, or rentals conducted at this site at this time with this hearing process. There are no dwellings on the property. The two-story masonry square foot building is 3,174 square feet and is already constructed at the maximum height of 25 feet. The plans are ready to move forward with after-the-fact permitting once this process is over. The current zoning is ASC1, and we are proposed to change the use to PD to facilitate the continued use of the gym boxing facility and the agricultural animal rescue. Future land uses are RES6. The reason we're requesting for the rezoning is the client moved their boxing training facility and the nonprofit entity from a different location, and code enforcement issued citations at this new location where they were requested the zoning change. We're asking that the rezoning to the PD request be approved so that the location where we are requesting the zoning changes. We're asking that the rezoning PD request be approved so that the boxing training facility and now animal rescue can continue to serve the surrounding community by continuing to work with the local at-risk participants. On average, the facility worked with 10 to 15% participants Monday through Friday between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. The mixed-use training facility and farm animal rescue will greatly impact those youth who are currently at risk by keeping them off the streets and in a safe place, teaching them discipline, respect, and self-awareness and with the community. Accountability with and also accountability with animal husbandry and responsibility. The building site development and building plans will be submitted if zoning is approved. The intensified use of the new PD is for the boxing gym, nonprofit, and agricultural animal rescue. This intensity would not harm the existing community as it would be harmonious with the existing community. The gym, boxing training facility, nonprofit entity, and the agricultural animal rescue farm, which rehabilitates the animals, benefits the local at-risk youth by teaching them discipline, respect, and self-awareness in the community, hard work, determination, accountability, as well as animal husbandry and responsibility. This use will show the at-risk youth, the surrounding community, that they are cared about, and that the end result will be to help mold the future for each enhanced citizenship and responsibility. There are no existing wetlands impact, as well as the existing access will remain unchanged. The existing parking is located on the southwest corner of the masonry building of the new gymnasium. The site is located within the City of Tampa water and wastewater, and we also meet every staff recommendation as far as our new submitted site plan for the project. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. You're done with your presentation? Okay, very good. We'll now go to the oral argument. There are three parties of record that have signed up in opposition from the zoning hearing master hearing. John Castellano, please come forward. Then Thelma Fernandez and Deborah Hale. And all three, and you're in opposition, you have a total of 10 minutes for all three speakers.
I'm John Castellano, and I live at 102 Ronell Drive in Brandon, Florida. I've served on the board of directors of the Riverview Chamber of Commerce. I've been involved in many projects in South County. This particular property that he is trying to get rezoned, we owned it. We cleared that property. My father used that property for his Black Angus cows for years. When he passed, my mother started selling off some of the property. We had 18 acres there. We now have 3 acres, of which we are presently have a lease with him on that 3 acres for grazing only. He since has put, I came by there and I seen that he had dumped on the west side of our property, old wooden pallets. I mean, a bunch of them. I mean, then I turn around and look back and we see that he's building stalls on our property. Anything he does, he's supposed to get our permission. We didn't want anybody on the property. There's people staying on that property. There's cars on the property. It all has to do with liability. All we're letting them have it for was for grazing rights. So you can see we have a problem there. The events that he has had in the past has been up to late at night, very loud. A lot of the people in the community that I have spoken to has objected to this. It is inconsistent with the neighborhood. It's a small, very narrow road, goes to a dead-end street. At the end of the street, there's another lady that lives down there, and she is very upset about it. At any rate, all the area has had a problem. The streets all down from 22nd Street all the way to 36th Avenue South, all the way to 78th Street. At events they've had, thousands of people that have come there from all over the state of Florida. Like, this is a major problem. The whole neighborhood is totally backed up with traffic. They can't hardly get through. If there was an emergency situation where you needed to get fire equipment or sheriff's personnel down there for a bad event, something that went on down there, they couldn't get down there. They couldn't even get down there because of all the traffic and the cars parked on both sides of the street and all the streets. One night, my brother had a lady come running to his front door, which he lives on 36th Avenue, and banging on the door, yelling that they were leaving, and people from there were bothering them on the street, and she was calling for help. He had to call the sheriff's department on what happened there. At any rate, these are some of the things that we're dealing with. We feel that it's very inconsistent with what is going on in the neighborhood.
Okay.
I appreciate y'all listening to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thelma Fernandez, Deborah Hale, and you have about 6.5 minutes left.
Good morning. Thank you all for hearing us.
Could you identify yourself?
My name is Thelma Fernandez.
Okay, great. Thank you. Have
And
you
I live
been
on-
sworn in?
Yes, I have been.
Thank you.
And I live on 36th Avenue. When I got ready to leave this morning, I found in my mailbox a letter from Ms. Hale. Evidently, they left this morning and went to the emergency room, and they're at Tampa General. So I have a letter that she sent.
Okay. Sure.
I'm not going to read it. It's just that she says that she's at Tampa General and that she's very concerned with the issues going on. She says that they're blocked in quite often. They live at the dead end, and evidently their driveway faces the dead end street, as you come out. And when they open their gates and I haven't actually seen it, I've been there, but I haven't actually noticed it. Their gates, when they open them, block Ms. Hale's property so that they can't enter or exit. They also say as they're getting ready to leave, there's people in the middle of the street when they're parking on the streets for their activities in the evenings. Evidently, in the hearing, they said that their hours of operations were Monday through Friday, 5:30 to 9 p.m. Well, it's much later than that when they leave. They're there on Saturday and Sunday. The children are there on Saturday and Sunday. And according to Ms. Hale, there's been several problems with people accosting them when they come to leave their property. They block them in or block them where they can't come in or out. Then they're stuck and nobody will move, and they laugh, they yell, they scream, they curse. And according to what she's got here, and I'm not
Excuse me,
privy to this.
Ms. Fernandez, I understand Ms. Hale's situation and I understand that she is opposed. However, what you're reading is starting to stray away from the record of the zoning hearing master meeting.
I'm
So
just
putting it into the record that Ms. Hale isn't able to be present and that she is opposed is okay. But at this point, I just want to caution you to go only into the record of the zoning hearing master and what you had presented at that time.
Okay. On to what I have. Since they've moved there 2 years ago, we've had nothing but problems with this facility. It's not a very good situation. I have checked with juvenile justice. They have not applied for anything as far as to allow any adjudicated children to be there for rehabilitation. From what I understand in speaking to them in Tallahassee, there's nothing there which would give them to be able to work with the children. There's no site plan, there's no nothing with juvenile justice. They've never been contacted. Like I say, the hours of operation are much later. They even admitted in the last hearing in April that they were there later than what they should be. They admitted they're parking on the streets, that they're blocking traffic. One of the problems and the reason why they're asking for this rezoning is all of these buildings were built without permits. They came in and they just did what they wanted to do. They never paid any attention. They didn't ask. They just don't care, to be truthful. And the only way they can get those permits is if they rezone the property. So they're in a catch-22. They either have to rezone it or they can't get their permits, and it's just a revolving door. He's saying that they cleaned the property up. No, they didn't. When 10 years ago, 8 years ago, when the Delaney Creek project went through and they cleaned the creek, access was given to the county to go in through that property and clean the creek. And when they did that and took all that vegetation out, that's when the cleanup happened.
Ma'am, again, that's information that wasn't really discussed during the zoning hearing master hearing. I don't have that.
I brought it up.
The record.
It was in my testimony.
Regarding the
yes
creek, do not see
and
that.
It was also stated that due to their changing things on the property with drainage, I brought up the fact that we all have wells, we all have septic tanks. 32nd Avenue does not have access for county water. 36 does. So I'm one of the lucky ones who does not have to use my well, even though it's still operational. But the way they dug a trench and put in pipe that leads from 32nd all the way into Delaney Creek, and it dumps into the creek. And I brought up at that time, you know, you're doing this, you're not paying any attention to the waterways, you're not paying any attention to the runoff, and it's flooding our properties. They've put, and I can show you pictures of it, but we can't put those into evidence. But the thing of it is, it was brought up, and you know, then he goes that day, he goes, well, we have porta potties, we have septic tanks, we have, yes, you do, and I understand that. But by changing the drainage without checking to see where things need to be, because there's a natural drainage off because of the creek, and it goes through the whole neighborhood. It goes all the way back to Hartford and actually crosses 41. So by changing that, it changes what actually leaches into our septic tanks. and our drainage for our septic tanks. It changes what leaches into our wells. I just have a problem granting him the thing of rezoning it when he didn't follow the rules for the first zoning. Why are we giving him a second chance to break more rules? It just doesn't make sense to me. When they have these events, which they haven't had since April, 2 years now, 2018, because we all complained and their permits were pulled. Yes, since the permits were pulled, there have been no police activity. There's been nothing with the EPC, you know, for the music and all of that, the loud, because it was stopped before they had a chance to come out. So they can't actually go out and assess something if nothing's going on. So that's why there's no current police calls or anything like that. Animal Services has been called. 2.5 years ago, they went in, and what they do is they move the animals from property to property. The animal, Buddy Butler was the sergeant that went out and who actually controlled what went on. They went to the next door property.
Thank you very much. Your time's up.
And so Ms. Hales, I don't have it. Hers took over my time.
No, you had 10 minutes total for all the opposition comments.
Okay.
But you did record Ms. Hale's opposition on record.
I was just told to stop.
At the beginning.
So-
No, not her her letter, but you did record the fact that she is opposed. And I'll refer to our
Thank
county
you.
attorney.
Just at the neighborhood, the other thing is,
Ma'am.
it was brought up.
Ma'am, unfortunately, the 10 minutes that you had as the group of opponents, that has already expired.
Right.
Thank you.
Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me. Okay, I've offered 5 minutes for a rebuttal.
The rebuttal will be based upon the fact of the previous testimony that has been submitted as we were here, that also received from the county clerk office. If the staff or the commissioners have any questions about the activities that are going on site, it'll be my pleasure to answer any of those questions at the time. They have not had any events there, or no police or sheriffs have been called.
Commissioner Miller, do you have a question of him?
Yes, thank you. Was he done?
Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. Up there.
I have to go to Planning Commission and Zoning Hearing. Okay, Planning Commission.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Tony Garcia, Planning Commission staff. The proposed request would allow for the rezoning of the subject property from agricultural single-family to a planned development for the operation of agricultural uses plus a boxing gym on the subject site. The approximately 4.93-acre site is located in the Res 6 future land use category. The proposed agricultural uses are consistent with the residential 6 category per policy 29.6, stating that agricultural and agricultural-related uses shall be permitted in non-rural land use categories. However, Res 6 requires locational criteria for neighborhood commercial uses, of which the proposed boxing gym is considered unless a waiver to said criteria is sought. The site is located more than 900 feet from the nearest applicable intersection and therefore does not meet locational criteria. The applicant is seeking a waiver based on the following: compatibility with surrounding uses, specifically along the Causeway Boulevard corridor to the north. Also, the proposed gym being a nonprofit operation not open to the general public. To that effect, Planning Commission staff recommends that Development Services condition that the site, such as the boxing gym, becomes and remains a compatible use for the neighborhood, including but not limited to square footage requirements for the gym facility, the prohibition of public events such as neighborhood fairs in established hours of operation. Based on the above, along with the applicant's submissions, Planning Commission staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners waive the locational criteria for this request. Based upon the above considerations, Planning Commission staff finds a proposed rezoning request consistent with the comprehensive plan for Hillsborough County. Thank you.
Thank you. Zoning Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered the request to rezone 9.6 acres from ASC1 to planned development to recognize an existing boxing gym facility with agricultural uses. The zoning hearing master noted that code enforcement cited the boxing gym land use as it is not a permitted use in the ASC1 zoning district. In response to the neighborhood concerns, the applicant has agreed to zoning conditions that prohibit neighborhood fairs, indoor and outdoor events, and events that are open to the public associated with the boxing gym facility. The applicant has also agreed to limit the hours of operation for the boxing gym to Monday through Friday from 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. The zoning hearing master, considering these proposed conditions, found that the request is compatible with the character of the area and consistent with the intent of the Land Development Code and Comprehensive Plan, and recommended approval.
Okay, thank you very much. We will now move to board comments and vote. Commissioner Miller, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me thank you all for coming down concerning this issue. I would have gotten a briefing on this yesterday, but because staff was running late from another commissioner, I didn't get a briefing. That's something I want to talk about at the end of this meeting. So I have some questions of staff, try to get a clarification on this. And I'm quite familiar with the gym that was before at Ybor City. I didn't know that they had moved, but I'm familiar with what the gym did while they were in Ybor City. They didn't have the animal petting or whatever they did with the animals there, but I am familiar with the gym and what their operations were at that particular point in time, and taking some of those kids that was just about to step over the line and go the wrong direction and putting them in the boxing program and trying to save them from going off the deep end. But my question is this. I'm understanding they put the building there without a permit, right?
That's correct.
And the animal issues, was that also without a permit?
The animals were allowed on the site as it's ag zoning, so they were allowed to have animals, farm animals on the site. It was the construction of the boxing gym and boxing training facility that was done without the benefit of a site development review or permits for the structures.
And that's when code enforcement went out and saw that they had the building there without the permit and then issued the citation.
Yes, code enforcement issued them the citation for the boxing use, for the recreational uses. That was not a use associated with the property. We've also identified that they need to go through site development and permit the building. So all three elements will need to be complied. If this zoning were approved, it would comply the use issue and allow the boxing facility to be on there. The next step would be for the site to go through site development, at which parking, stormwater would be reviewed, and finally would be building permits for the structures.
So the building is there now. It wasn't permitted.
Correct.
And what they're trying to do now is get a PD where all the things you just mentioned concerning parking and all that will be looked at that particular point in time. Am I correct?
That would be the progression of development of site. That's correct.
Okay. Now, I understand that they had other events there before, something about a fair?
There were previously neighborhood fairs that were either applied for and or conducted on the site. Those are temporary uses that are allowed under the zoning currently in the Land Development Code. However, this PD as conditioned would prohibit any future neighborhood fairs or similar events on the property. So that was something they could do as a temporary use. This zoning would eliminate that as a potential use of the site.
So what they're trying to go through now with the PD basically would just be for the boxing. They could not have the fairs. They could not have any of those type of things there. They could still have the situation with the animals. They could still allow to do that.
Yes.
And the PD would allow them to now go back and look at parking, drainage, all the other scenarios that you're putting in as a condition. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Let me ask the petitioner. Why did you build a building without a permit?
No
like I mentioned
comments,
before
please.
on my testimony today, I was out of town for almost a year. I had a death in my family, so I had to leave the state. My fiance, with the ignorance of some of the members on the board, did that. The purpose of the first building was for accessory to the ranch. It's a farm ranch animal, and as we spoke to Mr. James Bling, who is the director of the building department, he said as long as you keep it for as I was told, for an accessory to the agricultural land, it's okay. But then when I was gone, they turned it into a gym. I was going to do the proper procedures, but I was not followed. So
okay. The lady that, thank you. The lady that spoke last. Yes, ma'am. I'm done with you. Come on. I want to ask you a question, ma'am. What's her name again?
Ms. Fernandez.
Ms. Fernandez. Do you live in the facility of this gym?
Yes, I do.
Okay. If they just basically had it for the boxing from 5:30 to 9, I think that's what it says?
Yes, sir. Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday. Is there a problem with the neighbors at that particular point of
Yes,
having
there
that?
is.
What's that issue?
There is a folder that has it's at least an inch of violations that they've done.
I'm not talking about what they've done.
No. But the problem is that they have no consideration of anybody else in the community. What they're concerned about, the neighbors in the community, being the last event they had, dumped 300 to 400 cars. You need to look at what the package that was presented by your own. I mean, y'all are the ones that put it together. When they dump that many people into our neighborhood, we have little narrow streets. There's not even a yellow line in the streets. We have no sidewalks.
Okay, you're talking about what they did in the past. I'm
But
talking about.
if they have the boxing gym and they have the fights, they're going to have tournaments. They're going to have different things where everybody's there.
They're going to have tournaments? Are they permitted for tournaments?
And
We've been told they were.
All I'm asking
They
staff.
stated
Hold on,
in the
ma'am,
last
ma'am, hold
meeting.
on. With what they're asking, requesting now, will they be permitted to have tournaments there, or just for the boxing training? Now we're getting into a different area here.
Commissioner, the way that the application is conditioned, the boxing would be limited to a training facility.
So it's only for training, no tournaments. Am I correct?
That's correct.
There will be no tournaments, ma'am. It's just for.
We've been told that they were going to have, when they got the gym going, once the kids were trained, they would have tournaments where they would compete, and that there would be people coming in for that.
Ma'am, staff just said the conditions that they have placed on this now, going through the PD, they will not be allowed to have tournaments. It would only be for boxing training.
The other concern the community has, my child's grown, but the other thing that they have, and even Bing Elementary School has wondered why no one has come and asked, could the children in the neighborhood? Everyone they've had that has come in that's being trained there, none of them are from our neighborhood.
Okay.
Even the ones that came and testified, if you look at your own hearing notes from April, everyone is from either in Tampa, Plant City, Riverview, everywhere around except in our neighborhood.
Okay.
The
All
kids from Progress Village are not even
Okay.
allowed to
All
come
right,
up.
ma'am. Thank you very much. It's quite obvious that the neighbors and the petitioner did not speak with each other.
That's correct.
I mean, it's quite obvious that did not happen. And I understand what you're trying to do, and trying to save some of those kids, I agree with you. But you being, no more. You all did not talk to the neighbors about the situation. You went above and beyond what you were doing, what you wanted to do with having the affairs and all those things there. I don't want to deny this today, but I do want you to sit down and talk with the neighbors about what you want to do with the conditions that they have. So I'm going to make a motion that we postpone this to the next hearing.
Continue it, and what would the date of that be?
July 24th.
My motion would be that we postpone this to the next meeting being. Continue to the next meeting being what now?
July 20.
July 24th at 9 a.m.
No, sir. No, sir. And that, no, ma'am. And that before they come back, that you and the neighbors sit down, talk, see if you can work out an agreement, and come back to us. If you can't, then you got a problem. So that's my motion.
Okay, and I think Commissioner Higginbotham seconded too. So there is a motion by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Higginbotham and Kemp. And I was given, there is a condition that no neighborhood fairs would continue Is that correct?
Yes,
So that's another condition. So I
Yeah, that's
just
in the
think,
condition.
in talking with the neighbors, a lot of this information
Right.
needs to get to them so that they understand all this noise and problems they've had in the past isn't going to continue. So I appreciate you making that motion, Commissioner Miller, because I think this can probably get worked out. So is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote to continue to July
24th at 9 a.m.
24th. Okay? Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, board members, we do have a lengthy agenda today, and I am suggesting that we break for lunch. We can take this next item, G4, but after we're done, I don't want to not complete item G4, so in the middle of an item. So let's complete G4, and then we'll break for lunch, okay?
Thank you, Commissioners. Item G.
And I will, I need a motion to open for oral argument on item G4. Motion by Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Chris. Please record your vote. Open for oral argument. Item G4.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you, Commissioners. Item G4 is a plan development rezoning 18-0100. The request is to rezone property at 17.24 acres large and currently zoned ASC1 for a plan development to permit the community residential home, which is a maximum of 2 stories and allows a maximum of 260 residents slash beds. Staff has reviewed this request, has recommended approval with conditions.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You're the applicant.
Yep. Vin Marchetti, for the record, representing the contract purchase of a 17.2-acre parcel of land located on Bell Shoals Road in Valrico, formerly the St. Stephen's Church site. Put an aerial on the overhead there to depict the site. Our request, again, as Joe mentioned, is a PD zoning for approval of 260-bed community residential home with a design which is sensitive to the surrounding neighborhoods, and will also have numerous amenities associated with it as an aging-in-place campus. I would like to point out the Planning Commission, the comprehensive plan, has a maximum for this particular site of 344 beds available under the comp plan. We're going down to 260 beds based upon negotiations, if you will, with the surrounding neighborhoods, which we'll talk about in a minute. With me today is my client, Bo Charney, our civil engineer, Everett Morrow, our architect, Renee Zepeda, our traffic engineer, Mike Razor, and our land planner is here, David Smith. David actually prepared a compatibility letter in support of our required waiver to the 500-foot separation standard set forth in the Land Development Code for Type C residential homes, which we're seeking approval of. The ZHM did review that waiver request, as did staff. Both found it consistent, compatible, and approvable. The ZHM also did an excellent job, as well as staff did an excellent job in the very detailed reports provided, analyzing all of the development activity on the site that would take place, as well as the PD conditions, all of which we agreed to. We did have one clarification in the conditions. That's number 1. In that condition, originally as proposed by staff, it was the site shall be limited to community residential home type C with a maximum of 260 placed residents. At the ZHM hearing and beforehand, I discussed with staff, we'd like to have that residence/beds for financing purposes. The ZHM agreed to that, as did staff, so I want to make sure it's clear for the record what we get asked for. Let me have Bo talk about his vision for the property first, and we'll go from there.
Okay, and you know you have a total of 10 minutes.
Yes.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Beaumont Charney, Bridgepoint Life Care Group at 1240 Marbella Plaza Drive in Tampa. Madam Chair, Commissioners, good morning to you. As the Senior Development Partner at Bridgepoint Life Care, I'm here today to seek your approval for our rezoning application at 5049 Bell Shoals Road in Valrico. to permit the development of a 260-bed assisted living retirement community that will provide supportive and assisted living services for seniors residing primarily in Valrico, Fishhawk, and Riverview communities of what we call South Brandon. Why an assisted living community? We recently commissioned a market study that indicated with a projected 37% population increase of seniors over the next 3 years in this South Brandon community that will still be underserved by over 950 beds within the next 3 years. A clear indication that additional assisted living beds will be needed, especially if the county's senior retention goal and strategic objectives are to succeed. What we are proposing is not a traditional institution-like campus of large block institutional buildings. Our unique just like home model will embrace a neighborhood-compatible design theme with villa and patio homes configured into clusters and mini neighborhoods featuring shared garden, walkways, and courtyards. Our development is expressly designed for the next generation of seniors, known as the boomers, and will be designed to provide our residents with life enrichment experiences, including a multi-use campus center, facilities for social and cultural programs, continuing education seminars, computer and virtual reality labs, and a 3D movie theater. Throughout the rezoning process, we responded to key considerations and objections that were raised by the surrounding neighbors. We listened to these objections and revised, amended, and redesigned significant aspects of the development and made these changes a matter of record, which is now part of the overall design. I feel that together with county staff and our future neighbors, this proposed development is not only consistent with county plans, but also satisfies the concerns and interests of everyone involved. And what you see here today represents just a small fraction of the seniors from the surrounding communities that are anxiously awaiting our grand opening. Over the years, Bridgepoint team has developed the knowledge, skill sets, experience, and expertise to bring an exciting new assisted living concept to the former site of St. Stephen Catholic Church for the benefit of the seniors and residents of the South Brandon area communities. Thank you for your consideration.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Edward Morrow, Landmark Engineering, 8515 Palm River Road, Tampa. As Mr. Charney had indicated, the site plan that you see on the monitors, we started out with a very generic plan, but working very closely with the neighbors as well as staff. We put a lot of definition in it for building locations, building orientations. Had a couple of concerns with several of the neighbors, particularly the visibility. We came up with the buffer screening along the south property line and also some building orientation to address Mr. Bach's concerns that were addressed specifically at the zoning hearing master.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Renee Zepeda. I'm a licensed architect with Stuff Cooney Architects, 633 9th Street North in Naples, Florida. My credentials have been submitted. And as previously said, we have worked with staff, with neighbors, and I have spent as architect with the civil engineer and the client numerous hours changing the design. What I want to stress is Mr. Chorney's direction all along has been to design a project that will maintain the beauty and charm of the neighboring communities by being compatible with the existing residential character and landscape qualities. In the past, for those needing more care, an institutional model was the only option. This, or they have continuing care retirement communities that are usually far away from neighborhoods and not integrated with communities. This development proposes to give senior residents a different care option. Rather than one large, very institutional-like building, Mr. Chorney proposes a variety of smaller buildings. The result will be a development of residential-style buildings compatible in architectural character with the surrounding fine single-family home communities, with pathways and landscaping and an enhanced environment a campus that our seniors can really call home. In closing, I want to say that in looking into the future, this is the right time to give the Valrico seniors a different option, one that affords them a more familiar setting for aging in place. We look forward to the project, and we thank you very, very much for your attention to this petition.
Thank you very much. And you have about 2 minutes left?
I'll take less.
Okay.
Vin Marchetti again for the record. Again, we have full staff support. We have ZHM recommendation of approval consistent with the comprehensive plan. Happy to address any questions. We started out our first neighborhood meeting, probably had 60 people there perhaps. Various issues were discussed. Bo has really worked extensively with the neighbors pretty much individually and then together as a whole along the way. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. And we'll now go into the actual oral argument. There are quite a few signed up in support. Each side will have 10 minutes. We have one person signed up in opposition. Linda Miguel? Yes. Would you like to come forward?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Linda Meagle. I have been sworn in. My address is 5116 Dunham Creek Place, Brandon, Florida. I would like to start off by taking this opportunity to thank the county planner, Mr. Israel Monsanto, whose hard work and diligence facilitated a meeting of the minds between the developer, Mr. Chorney, and our communities. Mr. Israel Monsanto was a true asset to Hillsborough County. At the zoning hearing on April 16th, Mr. Ted Gustitis spoke on behalf of the River Woods and Shoals Development. Prior to that, on April 11th, we met with our communities met with Mr. Beaumont Charney to discuss his plans and intentions for the proposed assisted living facility to be located at 5049 Bell Shoals Road, Valrico. The following are the assurances he gave to our communities. These were entered in at the zoning hearing master. I just want to reiterate, and there was a minor discrepancy on something that was mentioned at, by Mr. Marchetti, and I just want to correct that. All right, item number 1. We were assured by Mr. Beaumont Chorney that the wetland conservation area would be preserved and that no walking trails or structures would be placed within them. We request the preservation of the wetland conservation area to be a condition of this rezoning. Item number 2. It pertained to the southern boundary and the enhanced natural screening of 2 rows of staggered evergreen cedarwood trees. Stated in April 4th transmittal and on site plan, 16-foot tall red cedar trees, not 14-foot as stated by Mr. Marchetti at the April 16th zoning hearing. I just want to correct that. Also, at one point in time, there was a suggestion of additional fencing, PVC white fencing along the southern border. That was recommended by the county to try to enhance the buffering. We, the residents along the southern border and the communities, don't feel that's necessary. It would be very redundant because we already have fencing and we have a wall. So it would be fencing on top of fencing. So we would like you not to, we don't want that, and Mr. Chorney is opposed to that as well. Item 3. We were assured by Mr. Beaumont Chorney that due diligence would be taken in regards to mitigating the flooding of Riverwood's southern boundary near Bell Shoals Road, the Riverwood entrance, and the flooding of the wetlands wooded area. This is a very real and legitimate concern for the residents of Riverwoods and not an unreasonable request. Provisions must be made so that, particularly during the rainy season, the proposed development and alteration of the property known as 5049 Bell Shoals Road, Valrico, does not result in further flooding of the wetlands wooded area, which would result in direct harm to the residents living on the western boundary of the property. We request mitigating the potential impact of flooding at the Riverwoods entrance and wetlands be a condition of this rezoning. Item 4. Site plan represents Bell Shoals Road after its widening occurs. A 30-foot setback noted. Submitted April 4th, transmittal by developer to county. Developer has also committed that the building in Pod B closest to Bell Shoals Road will be set back 30 feet, inclusive of 20-foot buffer from Bell Shoals Road to accommodate neighbors' concerns with visibility from River Hammock Boulevard when turning onto Bell Shoals. Item number 5. We were assured by Mr. Beaumont Chorney that this proposed assisted living facility was a new concept plan, strictly residential by nature, without the intrusive promotional commercial elements of seminars, arts and craft fairs, and/or such functions that would deem it an attractive nuisance, enticing transients, resulting in extensive transient parking along the north and southbound shoulders of Bell Shoals Road, which would result in dangerous driving conditions for the local residents and thus place the lives of both local residents and transients alike in jeopardy. We request as a condition of this rezoning that this assisted living facility be what Mr. Chorney claims it to be, residential homes for the elderly without the enticements or entrapments of the current self-promoting business model of the same. And number 6, lastly, that Mr. Bach from the Shoals requested the angle of the two center buildings in Pod B be flipped so to afford him more privacy. Mr. Chorney stated that present angle was determined by the county, however, addressed within the minutes of the zoning hearing by Mr. Marchetti, Mr. Gustitis, and Mr. Bach himself, the reorientation of the centrally located buildings in Pod B noted concurrence by both parties with agreement to modify. And that is all.
Okay, do you represent your...
I represent the Riverwoods community and the Shoals community.
But you're the only one that came to the land zoning hearing?
Yes, I'm the only one who came because, like I said, thanks to Mr. Monsanto and Mr. Chorney having meetings with us and discussing, we ironed out everything. We just wanted to reiterate these last points and we came to a meeting of the minds.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. And now we'll go to those in support. It's a total of 10 minutes. We have quite a few speakers lined up. So if you all would like to line up here on the wall, and then if you would identify yourself, please come forward. How are you, Lisa?
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for your time. My name is Lisa Hudeman. I live at 2505 Mason Oaks Drive in Valrico, and I want to voice my support for the proposed amendment, for the proposed project, because I believe this is exactly what our community needs. As business people who are working, my husband and I are personally concerned about how we're going to care for our aging parents, specifically his parents, who currently live independently. But with my mother-in-law's declining health, it's going to be more and more difficult for him to care for her himself. This project allows him to remain in an independent type facility along with the additional support as needed, as well as us being close enough to them to provide them that support. And I know that many other friends of ours are in that same position, and maybe some of you are as well. A residential community like this is with a neighborhood is something that would be very attractive to people like my father-in-law. And with it in its close proximity, they're currently in Sun City, would allow us, who are currently working, to be able to provide that support. So I think it's an ideal fit for the residential community based on the proposal as to how they are developing it. And I think that this elder care community with the neighborhood atmosphere is going to enhance the Bell Shoals neighborhood. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, there's about 8.5 minutes left, so you'll have to portion the time between the remaining speakers, but glad you all are here.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. My name's Tim Donahue. I live at 2303 Greenlawn Street in Brandon. I've been a parishioner at St. Stephen's for the last 28 years, and one of the things that I've had to do is drive these roads personally and professionally. And over the past few years, any normal week at St. Stephen's, 1,300 people showed up for daily mass, educational sessions, and ministry events. And the traffic that those people generated was almost exclusively during peak traffic hours, morning and evening. And I do not believe that this development will create any more additional traffic load on the Bell Shoals roadway. My wife and I are starting to look at the time frame to downsize, and this would be an opportunity for us. So my wife and I both vote for this. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much. Next speaker. And please identify yourself. Good morning, almost afternoon.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. I'm Kathy Brown. I live at 3817 Ravenna Drive. I've been a taxpayer in Hillsborough County for 44 years, since April of 1974. And when St. Stephen's Church occupied this property, there is, Tim just said, there were often times when the traffic was very severely impacted on Bell Shoals Road. And St. Stephen's Church, of course, was exempt from property tax. Now, if we have the assisted living facility there, per the zoning change, we will have a property that will have zero impact on Bell Shoals Road and will be paying taxes. The more that pay taxes in Hillsborough County, the less the burden on me. So I like it. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Next speaker.
Good morning. Scott Hudeman, 2505 Mason Oaks Drive, Valrico, Florida. Back in the January-February timeframe, I created an online petition, which you all have a copy of, to determine the support of the rezoning effort, which was offered to local residents from the surrounding communities, and the results were overwhelming. 449 respondents to date. Many of these residents are here today to show their support for the much-needed assisted living community. Would you please stand if you are here with the Bell Shoals? Back at the zoning hearing meeting, I also wrote to Brian Grady in March that there are many seniors in the area that are nearing the transition point in their lives, and they really don't want to move away from the community that they're currently living in, yet there's a shortage of available options for these residents. So in conclusion, I encourage you to vote for this innovative assisted living community and show your support for the many area residents by voting yes to the rezoning of this property. Thank you.
And thank you for coming out. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Rita Joyce, and I live at 10805 El Toro Drive in Riverview. I'm an 83-year young resident of Riverview. Before my beloved husband passed away in 2009, we considered moving out of Hillsborough. However, as we looked elsewhere, we kept coming back in our hearts to the area that we had learned to call our home. The proposed plans for the Bell Shoals Road property will be a beautiful, very residential-looking community for seniors like myself. When I am no longer able to care for myself, how comforting it will be to know that I can remain among my extended family who would be able to visit me while at the same time in an environment where my health and safety would be a prime concern. As still an active senior, I urge you to vote in favor for the rezoning of 5049 Bell Shoals to accommodate this wonderful dream community for my future and that of many others like me. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Ed Scrubach. I live at 804 Tomahawk Trail in Brandon, Florida. I am a registered professional engineer in Florida. It is my professional opinion that the proposed development of the assisted living community on the Bell Shoals property will be the best use and will have no impact on the traffic. Most of or all of the residents will not be impacting traffic during peak times. In addition, staff traffic at peak hours will also be minimal because the facility will typically rotate or change shifts during the non-peak hours. My wife and I believe that the proposed development of the assisted living community is the best use of this property, will meet all the requirements of the city and county, and will be consistent with the surrounding communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. And there's about 3 minutes left, a little bit more than that.
Good morning, commissioners and board. I'm Elizabeth Cacciola, 906 Arrowhead Lane, Brandon, off of Bell Shoals. I have been a resident in this community for 30 years and have seen some very good and extremely bad developments. I would count this proposed assisted living community development as excellent and very good for this community. There are many different kinds of developments that could be built on this site that I would consider highly incompatible with the surrounding neighborhoods. This assisted living proposal within our community features a garden environment and scenic appeal. It will also be compatible because it will be lined with trees and foliage and will look and feel like a neighborhood community and not a commercial institution. For seniors like myself, the availability of an appealing senior citizen community in my town means that I can stay with my friends and family, and when it comes time to move to the next phase of my life, it will be there. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name's Ted Russell, and I live at 3012 Partridge Point Trail in Valrico. About 3 years ago, my wife and I went through the process of placing an elderly parent in an assisted living facility. Our biggest challenge was the lack of available units in the Brandon and Valrico area. Of the limited available units we looked at, all were traditional dormitory-style assisted living facilities, and most had a long waiting list. Our biggest concern was admitting our senior parent in an assisted living care facility within the community that he had lived. The proposed Bell Shoals assisted living community would afford seniors the opportunity to stay in the community in which they currently live as they transition to the different levels of aging in place assisted care. If the Bell Shoals community was available to us, we definitely would have inquired to have our senior parent live in that facility.
Great, thank you. Next speaker, so you two have 30 seconds between you left.
My name is John Nolan, 606 Bloomfield Drive, Brandon, Florida. I was a civil engineer for my total career. I built several subdivisions out in that area, and having reviewed the preliminary site plans and architectural plans of this project, I feel that it's compatible, consistent, very appealing to surrounding neighborhoods, future residents, and traveling personnel on that road. And if you don't read the sign, you probably won't realize it's a living center. It's
Great.
a living center.
Thank you so much. Last speaker, 30 seconds.
Richard Demarest, 6116 Wimblewood Drive, Lithia, 33547. I have more to say than 30 seconds, so what I will say is I'm very much in favor of this project for the benefit of our seniors, for the benefit of the neighbors surrounding the territory. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you all so much. Y'all did a great job. Thank you all. And would the applicant, do you want to give a rebuttal?
Vin Marchetti, not rebuttal, just to comment on Linda's 6 points. So just to make sure it's clear for the record, points 1 and 2 are actually reflected in the site plan. The third item regarding drainage is dealt with during swift mud permitting and county permitting processes to ensure no off-site flooding or drainage concerns. Also, under number 4, the right-of-way that she talked about is within the site plan. That does accommodate the right-of-way that was for the road widening. Number 5 is the concern about commercial uses on the property. This is going to be accessory uses, accessory to the ALF itself and only those residents. And then the 6th item is Mr. Bach. We've addressed with Mr. Bach his concerns, and we're intending on during site plan certification reorienting the buildings, the 2 buildings he was concerned about for his property. That was it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Planning Commission.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Tony Garcia, Planning Commission staff. The applicant is proposing to rezone the subject property to a planned development for a 260-bed community residential home type C. Community residential homes are considered residential support uses. These types of uses are allowed within residential neighborhoods in order to directly serve the population. In fact, residential support uses such as child care centers, churches, and community residential homes are an allowable land use in any of the residential, commercial, or industrial future land use categories. The subject property is in a unique location surrounded by 3 existing suburban residential subdivisions to the north, south, and west. Compatibility with surrounding uses was a factor in the siting of the proposed use. The buildings along the northern and southern boundary were scaled to complement the size of homes along those boundaries. The applicant is proposing 1-story buildings along the northern boundary of the site. The remaining buildings on the site will be limited to 2 stories. Additionally, as per conditions, the design of the building shall be in a residential style with architectural elements to be in character with the residential character of the area. To mitigate impacts to the residential along the southern boundary, additional screening is being provided. Evergreen trees will be provided at a height of 16 feet at the times of planting. An existing, my thing froze. It happens. That being said, and I can't read the rest of my comments, I'm going to tell you that the considerations overall found the proposed request consistent with the comprehensive plan for Hillsborough County. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Zoning Hearing Master.
The Zoning Hearing Master considered the request to rezone to plan development for development of a Type C community residential home with a maximum of 260 residents or beds. A waiver is requested to the required 500-foot separation between Type C residential homes and non-agricultural single-family zoning, as the subject property is located adjacent to property zone RSC2 and planned development, which include residential entitlements. The applicant has justified the request for waiver by asserting that the facility will be designed with a campus-like residential setting and a height limitation to be consistent with abutting properties. The Zoning Hearing Master considered the opposition testimony presented at the hearing and found that that testimony primarily focused on the existing traffic conditions of Bell Shoals Road and the possible negative impact the proposed facility would have. However, the Zoning Hearing Master found that, per the testimony of county staff, Bell Shoals Road is being improved and expected to be completed in 2022. The applicant agreed via zoning conditions to restrict the delivery of construction materials and equipment during peak hours in recognition of the proposed road improvements to Bell Shoals Road. The Zoning Hearing Master, therefore, considering the evidence and testimony provided, found that the request was supportable and recommended approval.
Okay, thank you very much. We're now in board discussion and action. Commissioner White, you're recognized.
Thank you. Well, this parcel is in my district. The residents are absolutely right. When the church was there, it would generate traffic anytime there was a gathering, including weekly mass, to the point that an off-duty highway patrolman or deputy would have to be brought in to control traffic. I'm so glad to see that the site's going to be redeveloped so quickly. We've had issues out in my district with areas sitting for long periods of time in need of redevelopment. Mr. Marchetti, I've said this to you before at some land use meetings, but why can't all of your cases be like this one? It's just, sometimes
I think it's both.
Yeah, sometimes it's like a 4th of July barbecue in here with Mr. Marchetti as the main course. So, in all seriousness, with respect to the citizen that was looking for some clarification on the points, does staff agree with Mr. Marchetti's rebuttal to that?
Yes, we do. We believe that this application is conditioned to satisfy the concerns of the surrounding residents.
Fantastic. Well, it looks like everyone's happy. We're going to improve traffic. We're going to have a tremendous asset. It's my understanding that we are woefully under-inventoried with respect to ALF facilities in Hillsborough County. I like the architectural design standards that I see. There's really not much not to like about this project. So with that being said, I'll gladly move the item.
Great. We have motion by Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Chris. I'll echo all the comments made by Commissioner White. I attended services at St. Stephen's for years, actually. When I represented that area in the legislature, I used to go out and visit with families. So it's a great, great area, and this is a needed facility for that community. So it's really good. Okay, no further discussion. Please.
Commissioner, if I could just make one clarification, Scrivener's clarification on the record.
Yes.
For condition 3.2, there's a reference to architectural elements and a date of January 26th. I actually have an updated version, so the date in the condition will be March 27th for the architectural elements.
Okay, very
It's
good.
consistent with the backup that you have.
Okay, see a nod from the applicant. Very good. Okay, with that, please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
We do good work here. Okay, with that, we are going to break for lunch. We'll be back here at 1:30.